Hi, and welcome to Thursday with a Friend. My name is Lawrence, Larry, Punk. There are so many other words that are probably aren't safe for this channel. People might call me. Anyway, today I have a very special guest, a person that until I don't know, maybe 10 minutes ago, I had never actually spoken to in real life. That doesn't happen very often. And sometimes I find these to be the best interviews because it's one thing to talk to people that you know, and sometimes you have to change how you ask questions because you already know it, but you know the audience doesn't. Well, I know absolutely nothing about this guy, so you guys don't want to look at me anymore. So my special guest, Plastic Battles. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. This is great. I'm
Thank
excited
you
to be
for
here.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. And the first thing that I said was the moment we jumped on, I said, thank you for having your name because I never knew what your name was. It's weird how many of these people we don't know what their names are. It became something that Osradamus Toy said early on. He's like, hey, don't come up to me and tell me your name is John if your name is Plastic Battles. I guess Paul, I'm looking at your name, right? Because
Right.
that's how we see you. And if I've never seen your face, don't come up and introduce, as your as your real name when
Right.
we only know your screen name.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You kind of have to kind of qualify who you are by what people know you are, because it's all like mostly faceless anyway. So
Yeah.
you might not even know the face, let alone the name. So it's kind of hard to
And
process that.
they know us or they know you. I mean, I know you've been doing your Instagram lives, you've been doing them for quite some time. And I said earlier, thank you very much. I know normally you do it on Thursday. So
Hmm.
I appreciate anytime somebody can take a little bit of time out of something they do to join me on that same day. But it's different. Like they know us, but we don't know them. And again, even knowing us, sometimes when you see them, now I talked about how short I am, so no one's really shocked, but sometimes you see some of these people. When I saw a Wilhelm uh, at Joe Fest, actually thought he was shorter and a little plumper, and he's not. He's a tall, stocky mother, and I'm like, you are not what I expected, even though I've seen you before. So
Yeah. You only
and
see like torsos and up usually. You
sometimes
know?
you only see the neck.
Right. Right.
The face, like the neck, and I'm like, it drives me nuts when this is all you people that go on. Don't show just your neck up and have like a foot or two on top of you. Like your head should be closer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Show what's behind
I
you.
could do that.
That's
You could do
like
this and look like I'm 2 feet tall. You know? Like, oh, my hair is like 3 feet tall by itself,
yeah,
so it's
you
terrible.
yeah. You had to bring yours down a lot just to get
I
the to
know.
get the hair in there.
I need a
I don't have
haircut big time.
I don't have that
Yeah.
problem. Anyway, well, let's just start it off and let me ask you, where does your name Plastic Battles come from?
Man, I don't know. We go back to like 2015 or 2014. I don't remember when I first got the name, but I was looking to do like toy photography on Instagram, and I just was trying to find like a name that was available, and I was going through names left and right, like, wow, what kind of name? And I'm like, I just got to pick something just to have it, and then I can change it later if I want to. So it just ended up being Plastic Battles, which most people say plastic bottles because that's what you're gonna say. But
Wait, really?
I just stuck with it. Yeah. Oh my god, it happens all the time. Yeah, but I just stuck with it because it's nice and short. I don't have to put any like dashes in or periods or weird numbers after it. It just kind of works. And I wasn't happy with it for a while, and I kept trying to think about different names. And I'm like, you know what? Who cares? I'm just gonna leave it. So
Once
that's really what it
once
came down
people
to.
know you, like, you have to keep it. I tell people, like,
Hmm.
don't once you become established, and again, we're a small niche community, but once you get something established, you don't wanna start changing your name because then people are like, "Oh, and they're gonna continue to call you the same thing no matter what.
Yeah, yeah,
It
totally.
doesn't change.
Mhm.
That's who they see you as. So,
Right.
but it works because we're dealing with plastic. You
Mhm.
put together some amazing photography of battles, so it works tremendously. And let's be honest, Paul. Well, there's a lot of Pauls, and then you kind of just get lost in the
Right. Well,
just
I have
lost in
the alliteration is there. The Paul Plastic Battles, that works. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So at least I got that going for me.
All right, quickly, let's say hi to the chat because we got 20 some people watching. So we have I always get this guy actually mixed up with you, believe it or not. And I met this guy at Joe Fest, Plastic Fantastic.
I like
very
that name. That's great.
Yeah, and he does some amazing.
It's got the 4s in there for like Fantastic Four.
Yep, he does amazing 3D prints.
Oh,
We
that's
got
great.
Yep, Same Time Toys, Mendoza, J Astro, FCS Dog.
Hey,
is here.
Jastro.
Jazz.
I know
You said
Jastro.
Jastro?
Yeah, that's what I call him. That's
That-
what he is
that
on
actually
Instagram,
makes-
I think.
It does make more sense, Jastro. Machine Man is here. Let's see here. We have one of my moderators, Matthew Matson. We have Ray Black, Payne's Toy Sample. We have White Vegeta. I
Hey,
think
White
I'm
Vegeta.
saying that right. I met him at Joe Fest. Wonderful guy and does some really, really cool stuff.
Oh yeah, he's
that's
awesome. He's a good
not
dude.
3D printed. He's like, yeah, I got something for you, and it's one of the coolest boxes that I have. So, Len is here. We have 3-star draw. We have just Jeff, Joe Fan 84, and Viper Scout. So, well, let's get
Nice.
into this. We said hi to everyone. 23 people. Please hit that like button. Also, in the description are links to both your YouTube channel and your Instagram. But do you do much on YouTube?
I just started doing a little more there. So on Tuesday, I published my first kind of toy photography. So I started like it's called Joe-tographer. It's just like a G.I. Joe focused toy photography show. So I put the first episode up there with Skydor Walker on Tuesday, and we're going through like old vintage toy photography breakdowns from like I have these catalogs from Europe that have from the 80s. They have like awesome, toy photography in them. So going through these, there's 3 parts. The part 2 will go up tomorrow night. So I just started doing more there on YouTube, and I'll have other stuff coming too outside of Joe-tographer, but that's kind of like a video podcast, I guess you would say, that I started.
So that already sounds more interesting than anything I do. So go subscribe, but don't leave now. Stick around. That really does sound, and I love that because it's something different. That's the one thing that we've seen in this space is that a lot of things are getting stale because we have the same people doing the same stuff. And I'm no different. I'm doing toy reviews, and people are like, how many toy reviewers can there be? And it's like, I don't know, just watch mine, and then you guys can decide which other ones you don't want to watch.
Right.
But no, that's very interesting. It's kind of like what Articulated Points does. It's something different. It gives us
right.
a little bit of knowledge into stuff. And I don't understand photography. I try and take pictures. I get lucky with light sometime, but I'm starting to enjoy and understand more as I watch what you guys are doing. And it's the only way you get any better is by watching what you guys do. So
yeah, I mean it's all trial and error,
exactly.
It's all stuff. I've been shooting photos since I was a kid with my mom's Polaroid. So I shot Joe's with my mom's Polaroid back in the day. Not well, but yeah, so it's just something that you get better at over time, and you never really master it. There's always stuff to learn. So
yeah, and again, I'm coming into, and I had a problem when I first started trying to take pictures was I spent all this time like posing figures and doing, and I want to get the whole thing, but then you realize no, you're not supposed to. You take a shot of everything later on to show everyone. You're supposed to zoom in on certain things. And my mind was like, I'd spent all this time like getting the foot in the right position. That's what I want to showcase, but that's not where you get like the blurriness of a specific character. And it's way different now because it's all digital. All you have to do is delete you delete what doesn't look good, where instead of you're not going to Target or Kmart putting the film in.
or a dark room set up in your garage and dealing with dangerous chemicals to develop your own film.
That's even crazier. I only did that in school when I was in photography doing some of that.
Yeah, I did that in school too, and I'm like, this is pretty dangerous stuff right here, you know?
We have Turk Murphy Toy Solution jumping in here. We have a Fat Trid saying hello to Punk MPB. And then we have Vegeta. It is hard to say sometimes.
I believe it's White Vegeta. That's what
Vegeta. All right. I'm gonna ask him when I see him at Joe Fest. He says, I'm
Mhm.
actually making some weapons crates for Joe
nice.
Fest as I watch. Awesome.
He sent me a weapons crate. It's awesome. He also sent me for my birthday. This is crazy. He sent me for my birthday. 3D printed a classified scale checkpoint alpha, and it's amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to shoot some photos of that. So he's an awesome.
Those are nice. My buddy has printed up a few, and he always sells them way too cheap to the people in the area. And I'm always like, Greg, he's like, I feel bad if I charge more. I'm like, dude, you do good work. No one sees how many times you fail or it fails. They don't think about the filament that goes in. Like, you have to charge more. But he always feels bad, and he'll be like, yeah, I gave this person all this extra stuff. You're going to tell me I'm stupid. I'm like, yeah, you are. Like, you can charge more, you know?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Cause you know, there's that. I've been that way in the past too. I used to sell not for like plastic battles, but before I used to sell like designs and illustrations and posters and stickers and things on a website. Cause I used to do a lot of illustration and graphic design, and every order I would sell, I would put in like vintage Garbage Pail Kids cards just for like something to throw in. And like I'm talking like I probably sent out hundreds of Garbage Pail Kids cards in like the mid 2000s. And now I'm like, how much money did I just send out? Way more than the order was worth. Like I like hundreds of
I was at a client's office, I don't know, last year, and he had Garbage Pail Kids, a couple like in different cases, and I kind of laughed, and we started talking about collecting, and he goes, "Have you ever looked at seen how much these are worth?" I was like, "No, actually, I haven't." And then I made the mistake of finishing up and sitting in my car looking at them, and I had the first four series. My mom just bought me a box, so I had all of them, and I actually lost them playing a game of 21 as a kid to a friend of mine, and I will never forget it. I had 20, he had 21. The next card was an ace, and so he won all these Garbage Pail. And it's even harder now because not only they were so much, but my mom passed away.
That's got.
But then he was just like, he never cared about toys or GI Joe, and he's like, why don't you just take all this GI Joe stuff? I don't want it. And I still have some of that stuff.
That's cool.
There was like a hiss in there. There was a water moccasin, not a water moccasin, a hydrofoil. So there was a bunch of stuff that I still have to this day.
That's crazy.
Not worth as much because, like I said, one card, crazy. So
I know some of them are like, there's always like with anything. There's a few cards that are like worth a ton just because.
Atom Bomb. You just see Atom Bomb and you're like,
oh yeah, I had a few. I don't want to think about it. I'm gonna get upset.
We got Lamont Knight jumping in here. Rad Toys, Galaxy, and Will Murphy. All right, well, let's go back and ask, where did you grow up at?
I am mostly I grew up in Buffalo, New York area, East Aurora, New York, which is a suburb of Buffalo. It's like 15-20 minutes south of Buffalo. It's the same little town, same little suburb that Fisher Price's headquarters is. So when I was growing up, like I could walk to Fisher Price. It literally was just dropped into a neighborhood, the campus. So it's like in residential neighborhood is this big headquarters. And a lot of my friends' family and my aunt worked there for a period of time. So a lot of people worked at Fisher Price, or at least like my neighbor growing up worked at Fisher Price. It was that kind of a town. So small town, nice little place. A lot of snow. Got a lot of snow there.
I don't know where my other moderator is, but he is from the Buffalo area. So I'd like to know how close, Action Figs Ed is actually to you. So, but who knows where he's at? Yeah, I think I know he still lives there. Because he always talks about going to his whole family are huge Buffalo Bills fans.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I go to these parties and it's like And you
Oh,
like
it's
watch
crazy.
them just their hearts get broken every
Oh
single
yeah.
year.
Oh yeah, totally. I every year I was in high school, they went to a Super Bowl all 4 years, and they lost every one.
Oh my god.
And and then I was pretty much done with it. Then I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Um, then I actually then I went to some games when I was older because I would get free tickets because my girlfriend was a cheerleader for them. So I would get a free ticket to games, but that was also the era that I was like partying a lot and everything.
Okay.
So if I'm going out on Saturday night and partying and then waking up at 1 p.m. and being like, oh, the game, and then like getting the game at like halftime, and then she'd be pissed because I missed half the, they used to rotate 4 squads around the corners, and I'd always miss her squad, and she's like, I'm gonna give my ticket to somebody else. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Just woke up at 1. Yeah, so I don't watch a lot of football anymore just because that killed me growing up.
Hey, I grew up in Detroit, and everyone knows.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not a Lion. I gave up on the Lions in 2000, but I still follow them because it's what everyone talks about. I listen to sports radio, so the heartbreak of Lions fans is,
Yeah,
people
it's
ask the question: would you rather have gone to a Super Bowl or for 4 years in a row, or never been there? And most people will go, especially here, like at least they were there.
Yeah, it's true.
You
I
know?
mean, there were some great games leading up to it. I mean,
Yeah.
the comeback against the Oilers was a huge thing. There was a lot of like fun. Thurman Thomas and Jim Kelly and those whole teams were great. But it still sucked at the end. I'm
That's
a
one of
Sabres
those.
fan, so now I've got 14 years and no playoffs in a row and no hope. So I still follow hockey, but that's about all I follow now.
Well, as a Red Wing fan, I can't say I feel the same because I did watch 4 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to complain about that, but it has been an awful. I think it's
You're not down with the
10 years.
Yzer plan?
And,
I
you know,
know that's been a sore subject in Detroit.
it is because you know what, him coming back, it's kind of like when Bobby Clark, wasn't it Bobby Clark who was the Phillies general
Oh,
manager?
the Flyers. Yeah,
Yeah,
Bobby Clark. Yeah.
the Flyers, where he was the general manager when the Wings won their first Stanley Cup against the Flyers. And when you come back again, he's not the greatest Red Wing of all time, but he's probably the most famous.
Yeah,
Or more,
probably.
he's the most beloved. He's the most beloved in Detroit. He's the most
Right.
beloved Wing.
Okay.
Again, and if someone wanted to argue and say that Howe is, I'm not going to argue at all with that.
What about Lidstrom? Lidstrom up there?
I think Lidstrom is I think Lidstrom is the second best Red Wing of all time behind Howe. And Yzerman would be number 3.
Yeah,
But he's not more
that makes
beloved.
sense.
He's not more
Howe's
beloved.
got to be the legend, right? He's got to be the legend.
He did everything. He fought,
Yep.
and again, but that was before our time. We watched the Yzerman and Lidstrom, and we watched what they did. So, yeah, I wouldn't call Brett Hull a Detroit legend. He did play though.
Oh, don't even bring Brett Hull up. The '99 Stanley Cup Finals, a foot in the crease.
I will still say that they hunkered down on that rule so much, and that was so egregious. Like there was no like, it was kind of, dude.
No, I know.
Even though he did not interfere with Hasek,
right?
His foot, by the letter of the law,
right,
was in that crease, and it should not have counted.
So I thought the rule was stupid, but it was the rule, and they called it every game
time.
up until the final game of the season.
Yeah, and this wasn't a skate just barely hitting it, which they would call them off. His whole leg was in the crease, and you're like, it's there. It's I have blind friends that saw it.
It was the third overtime. I remember with my friends, we were at his family's house watching the game. I think we watched the first overtime. Then we drove downtown Buffalo, which is where all the bars and clubs were, and we sat in the parking ramp with the doors open to the car and listened to the whole second overtime, sitting around the car in the parking ramp. Then when it went to the intermission, we went to the bars. We got into a bar and we were all drinking, watching. Everyone's watching the screens. The whole place is going nuts, and they scored, and it was like I didn't even see the skate in the crease because everyone just like was so depressed. They all laughed, and we until like either later that night or the next morning because the bars closed at like 4 in Buffalo. So we were out to probably like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I don't know if I saw it until either I got home that morning or the next morning when I woke up. But yeah,
That's
that's
crazy. I know no one tuned in to hear about hockey, yeah, but I don't care.
yeah,
It's about you. Let's head to JLS Comics. Jay Astro says, little known fact, Paul invented Buffalo Wings.
It's true.
I'm assuming there's got to be a story. We'll come back to that.
No, I don't think there is, but I'll take credit.
We have the Toilet Network. As a New Yorker, the Buffalo sports curse is legit.
Oh, he's a Western New Yorker. Yeah, so he's from the Buffalo area.
Yeah, so this is my moderator who's also, forgot to switch accounts again. Ed. And then we have Quip, who is the co-host of Geek Dad Life now. All jumping in here. All right, so I wanted to. I like Detroit back when Vyacheslav Kozlov was playing for them. I just want to say that because I can actually say Vyacheslav Kozlov, one of the words I actually can say.
That's a crazy
Kozlov
name.
was amazing, and my buddy told me that before his car accident, many actually thought he was better than Fedorov.
Damn.
But when he got in that car accident where I think three of the 5 were killed.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I believe it was before he got over here. I think that was actually how they got him over here.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he was, and you could watch how good he was. He was something else. But we'll get away from the hockey talk because I think we've
don't give me hockey. We'll spend the whole time talking about hockey.
We got not Rachel jumping in here saying a punk with hockey sticks.
Oh, hey Rachel.
It's not Rachel. Remember, it's not Rachel.
Oh, okay, not Rachel.
So, do you mind me asking how old you are?
I'm 49.
49.
Welcome. Just turned 49. Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
Thanks.
I am too.
Not excited about it, but trying to hold on to my youth as hard as I can.
You know what? So am I. That's why I ride a skateboard still, and my knees are like, I hate you.
Yeah, I know. I've had half the cartilage taken out of my right knee, so it's I've been running lately, and it's been bothering me. And I'm like, well, this is it. It's the end. It's the end. This is when I break down.
I always say that your body will break down when you stop doing, when you stop being active. You stop working out, stop walking, stop skateboarding, whatever. You stop doing stuff. That's when your body comes to a halt. Between that, it's just you bitching that it is, but you're still doing stuff. So what was your family life? Were your parents together? Did you have siblings?
Yeah, I've got a younger brother. He's like 2.5 years younger than me. Okay. I was born in 76. He was born in 78. We grew up in East Aurora, like I said, small town. My dad was like a plasterer, the Plasters Union. My mom was like, they were together our whole childhood until like halfway or toward the end of high school. Then they separated. But yeah, she was a stay-at-home mom for the most part, but then she started working later on as we got a little older, just side job stuff. She did work at a bank for a little bit, then she didn't, then she went back to the bank. But yeah, my dad was working. He would get up at like, he'd be up and gone before we get up for school. So yeah, and he would drink coffee in the morning, and then he would smoke a bunch of like Terry Tin cigarettes. And then he would put them out in the coffee and leave the coffee cup on the table. So by the time we got up, like there'd be like a ring of milk in the middle with like 3 butts of cigarettes floating in the coffee. I honestly, that was the biggest deterrent. I've never smoked a cigarette and I've never had a cup of coffee in my life. So after I think that just put that in my head, like that's disgusting. And I just never had either. So, so he didn't do it on purpose, but that worked for that, Yeah, so the family life was pretty good. He worked a lot. He was gone, like I said, early and home kind of late sometimes. He would pick up side jobs too. He would work his butt off. And yeah, it was good. We were like, middle class, just getting by. But my parents always, they always like overbought toys for us. Like we had every toy
Oh,
you can think of, and a lot of times we get 2 of everything because they didn't want us to fight. So we'd have like 2 Night Ravens, 2 Rattlers, like big things like Terror Drones, we'd have 1 of, but like all the
yeah.
other stuff, we'd get like 2 Snowcats, 2 Maulers, so we'd always have like a whole army of stuff. Whereas like the neighbors wouldn't. So we were kind of jerks in the neighborhood unintentionally, where we
Hey,
had like everything. But
I don't know what you mean. All right. So, do you remember like your first, your first memory of like the first toys that you played with? Not the first ones you fell in love with, but I think in our age bracket, we had
Mhm.
Army Men, Hot Wheels, the Adventure People. Those like the
Yep.
always ones. But do you remember like the first ones you have vivid memories of playing with?
Yeah, I mean, when I was real little, we lived in Boston, New York, which was a little more rural, probably like
Do
10,
they
15,
allow
20
that in New
minutes.
York? A place
What's
called
that?
Boston?
Yeah,
They
Boston, New York
allow
is
them to have a city called Boston in New
Mhm.
York?
Yeah, it's
I
real rural. It's like farm well, it's probably a little bit built up now, but I'm talking like 1980, 81, 82. We were there, in like a duplex, I remember, and I had the first toys I really remember other than like a what's his name? Mr. Bill doll, you know what I mean? Like I had a Mr. Bill doll and stuff like that, but outside that, I remember having, Star Wars figures, I remember having, like, the regular, like, whatever, Bespin or the first Luke, whatever that not Bespin, the Sand Planet Luke, Tatooine Luke, and, I remember my brother twist
Oh, did you freeze up or did I freeze up? You still there? Who's frozen? Can you hear him or can you hear me? Because I can't see Paul, which is really weird because he's in the middle of talking. Um, all right. So Paul is frozen. Hopefully he'll come back. So Dave is saying, I'm not frozen. Machine Man, he's frozen. I am fine, Manhosa. I am fine. Um, and now he's gone. So I'm assuming he's gonna bump out and he's gonna come back. But anyway, I don't think it will take that long for him to come back. Hopefully, that was odd though. I can say.
Okay, I'm back. I don't know what happened. I have no idea what happened. It was just like, "You're no longer connected." I'm like, "Okay, alright, back now."
So, all right. So we're
So what was I saying? Yeah, Star Wars is the first stuff I remember. Yeah, having
okay.
that.
So then, what was like the first? What was the first toys that you actually fell in love with?
I think it
Like
was
that you were
Star
like, I
Wars.
need to have everything.
I think well, yeah,
Not
that
everything,
was
but
the
you.
era where I don't think we had a lot of money then, because I remember I would get some Star Wars stuff, but, like, not a lot, and, I remember making, like, starships out of, like, shoe boxes and toilet paper rolls and taping them together, you know what I mean? Um, Stuff like that, DIY spaceships, and then, like, I remember, like, something changed around '83, I wanna say, where all of a sudden we had a Christmas where I got a bunch of toys, and I was like, "Oh my god."
Oh, just in
So
time for GI Joe.
yeah, yeah, that was. It was like I got Star Wars, but it was a lot of GI Joe in there, and I'm like, okay, things are looking up. I got vehicles now, so that was cool.
And well, and again, whether it be Star Wars or GI Joe, they made some amazing vehicles, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I do look back at that, and you're just like, so many amazing vehicles, um, and it really, really do make the line. As I'm doing these classic reviews, and I'm especially taking the doing the thumbnails, man, the 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 O-ring vehicles, they they photograph so well.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
there's so
they do.
much little detail to them, and the light just happens to work, and you get one of those, a couple of those extreme sets, and it just works because you're focused on that vehicle. So I'm
Hmm.
really enjoying like just so much stuff that you didn't realize the detail in that stuff. But so
Yeah,
what was your favorite like toys growing up, or did you have? You said you were kind of spoiled. Was it in
yeah.
just
I mean,
one line or?
G.I. Joe was definitely my favorite,
Okay.
without a doubt. I mean, I think I got my first G.I. Joe in probably 82 because it was a straight arm. I remember the trip. I remember I went to a Phase drugstore, which was like a chain around the Northeast or whatever, this
Okay.
Buffalo. And then my mom was picking up a prescription. I remember going, all those little drugstores had the little toy aisle. They strategically put it near the prescription counter. So if you were waiting for a prescription, the kids could like see the toys and want some.
I never thought
So
about
yeah, it was always near the prescription pickup back then. So I remember looking for Star Wars figures actually, and I remember there wasn't any. There was a lot of empty pegs, and there was just one Cobra soldier on the pegs, and
that.
I didn't know
Really?
what it was. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, what is this? I have no idea what this is. And then I like saw the art, of course, and I'm like, I have to have this, So then my mom bought it for me, and then when I got home, I'm like, oh my god, the knees moved, the waist, I'm like, oh my god, this is insane. And that was it. Like still got Star Wars stuff, but I was all about Joe then. So that was but I had like Sectors, Air Raiders, He-Man, Cops, you name it, like all that stuff. Didn't have any Thundercat. It wasn't really into Thundercats, but Turtles. I had pretty much everything all the way up to like I was probably 2 years into high school when I stopped collecting toys. So
Oh, well, we'll get to that then, because I
yeah.
love.
Well, I kept that under wraps as much as I could.
But no, that's interesting because I feel like I was kind of the same way. Like it was Star Wars, and again, I can remember seeing that first G.I. Joe commercial, what I was doing, what I was playing with, turning around, asking my dad if I could get one. I can remember getting them at this
Mhm.
Sears toy department. Everyone remembers Sears toy department. Such a great.
Yeah, that's where I got my torch. I remember there. I got torch there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that it's just because your parents always had to go to Sears, and it seemed like
Mhm.
anytime we went to the mall, we went in through Sears, and
Yeah.
you went
Yeah,
right by the
same.
toy aisle.
Yeah. Yep,
Um,
that's my dad always had to go in because he'd look at the tools and stuff, so we'd always go
yeah,
in that way. Yeah.
and
Yeah, and
there
they
they were.
actually the torch was on an end cap in the Craftsman tool section. Like they knew,
Oh
like we're
wow!
gonna put some toys over here because I remember my dad was looking at a toolbox, and I was like, "Oh my god, there's Joe's here!" And then my brother and I both got torch, and I remember getting home, and be like, "Why did we get the same guy? Why didn't you get a different guy than me?" So we ended up with the same guy that night.
It's funny that you say that because I remember being in, I think it was Lord and Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Either Lord and Taylor, because my parents used to like going there, but we were they were looking for bedroom furniture. And so we're walking through all of, and there was a spinner rack of Motu stuff,
Oh
like
man,
just
awesome.
placed right there because, like you said, kids are gonna get bored. And I
Yeah.
remember seeing like Evil Lynn and like as they're like now you don't care. You're like, I don't care. I'm gonna sit here and look at this spinner rack of
Mm-hmm.
Motu figures. And again, it wouldn't matter if you loved GI Joe and Transformers and didn't care
Right.
about Motu. You had toys to look at.
Oh yeah. They were everywhere.
Well,
I have a few Joe card backs that have Ace Hardware price stickers on them.
I don't
It's just
remember
crazy.
ever seeing them, but I remember seeing that, not A&W. We had this, God, I forget what it's called, but they had a whole wall. It was a like a low end grocery store, and
Mhm.
I just like they had a whole wall full of them. But I know people have seen those like Ace Hardwares. We had ACO
Mhm.
here. The Ace finally bought them out. Um, but I don't remember ever seeing that stuff. But I know people have found stuff there recently.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
toys
it's
started popping
crazy.
up.
Yeah, it was a golden man, and we all know it was a golden age. It was insane. Like it was just we had everything, and it was everywhere, and it was cheap enough to buy. So
AMP. That's what. Thank you very much.
oh,
AMP.
A&P, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's why I said it
Oh, and
wasn't A&W. A&W they
that's
have
the
root beer
burger
float.
joint.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. You get a wetsuit floating in your root beer.
that would have been awesome.
Um,
And then we had
JLS Comics said he used to buy toys at Ames, and that was in our little town, East Aurora. We had an Ames in town. Most of my Joes that didn't come from Toys R Us came from Ames. So like I got the Thunder Machine there. I remember getting all the Insecticons there. Ames was awesome back
Did you
then.
have Children's Palace or
Yeah, we had Child's World. We
Child's
didn't have
World, which
Children's
was the
Palace.
same thing, which is weird. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you see history on them or you see pictures, And I remember when there was other YouTubers talking about it, and then I'd see pictures. I'm like, that's Children's Palace.
Yeah, it's
It's
like the
so weird
same.
that
It's
they
the
have like,
panda bear.
yeah, they have
Yeah.
different names. They were like Palace. Like, why would you have two different names?
Yeah, I don't know. Might be a regional thing. Maybe there was some
Yeah.
kinda regional naming problem legally, who knows? But yeah, we had a child one Child World that lasted for the most it was kind of a drive, but then we had a few Toys R Us's around us, and then you had, Ames and Kmart and like we said, Sears.
Kresge.
Um, which one was that?
Do you have Kresge?
No, I don't know
Kresge
what
was
that is.
also Kmart also owned Kresge. So
Oh,
it
I didn't
was,
know that one. We had
yeah.
Gold Circle when I was real little. That went out of business,
It,
probably
it might it
mid-80s.
might have been because I believe the Kresge family owned Kmart, and since
Oh,
we're in
okay.
because they were based
Oh,
out of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Michigan, we used to
Yeah,
have Kresge. They were usually inside malls or like in strip malls,
that
but
makes sense.
they used to, obviously they got the same stuff as uh, Kmart and everything. It is kind of crazy now. I'm thinking like I never really thought about some of these places that had toys.
Yeah, it's crazy, like, almost everywhere toys that's where I got my same situation with the prescription. My mom was going to CVS, and it was, like I think it was just the beginning of '85, and I had never seen a Storm Shadow yet, and I was, like, fiending for Storm Shadow, and then we went there, and there was 2 Storm Shadows on the pegs, and I still remember taking it off the pegs and kissing the bubble, and my mom said, "Well, I gotta buy it for you now, you kiss the thing," and I'm like,
Oh,
"Yes." Like, I was
I
so excited.
remember the exact same Sears that I got my first GI Joes from. My dad said, you can't get any figures today. No GI Joe." I went, okay. There's only one that I want is Storm Shadow. We went in there. Sure enough, what's there? Two
Mhm.
Storm Shadows on the end cap. And I begged, I pleaded. My dad was like, I told you can't get any.
Oh,
The only reason why he let me get it was because the clerk there overheard me and said, "Yeah, that one's really hard. Every time we
that
get it in, it's gone."
that's
And he
awesome.
said, and my dad said, "Okay, you can get it."
That's awesome. The clerk
He was
knew. He was
probably
like,
gonna let me get
"Um"
it anyway, but
yeah. But the clerk's like, "I better dive in and do this kid a solid right now," you
oh
know?
yeah. If I knew who he was, I'd send him a big thank you right now because I still have my original one of my original Storm Shadows. I acquired like three over the years, and I still have both of my original or two of my
Oh,
originals.
nice.
So
I've got my
um,
original, he's not in great shape, but I have anytime I find, like, a white Storm Shadow, I buy it, so now I've got, like, a ton of them. So I just can't help it. I'm like, "It's a white he's not yellowed?" I'm like, "Mine. I'm gotta buy it." "How much is it?" $150? I don't care, you know?
oh
Let's just buy
man,
it.
you had
I know.
issues.
I know, I do. I have a problem. They're all scattered through this room. So there's one
Yeah,
on the card over there. He's right
oh, you
there.
got one on card?
Yeah, well, the bubble's opened a little bit, but
Either
he's pretty
way,
good.
it's still
Yeah.
um all right, so that's mostly the toys. Now, what was it about G.I. Joe that do you have a military background? Doesn't sound like your dad had a military background or
Yeah, he was,
anything.
Vietnam. I actually have, like, right here, I got one of his, berets from Vietnam. He used to
Oh
have,
wow.
like, he used to have, like, some, hold on, some, playing cards attached to the bottom of the skull to, Ace of Spades, and it said Dealer of Death on it, but that part broke off. So I used to wear this in the woods when we play war all the time. Uh, so
Oh,
I'd wear
that's
his fatigues, and I'd wear that, and I had those he had 2 of the kinda Recondo hats that you would snap up. One had a
oh
snap,
wow.
and the other one had, like a some kind of a rope thing that would snap up or tie it up. I don't remember.
Okay. I
I
know what you're
lost both
talking
of
about.
those in the woods, and he didn't seem to care. We had his, those poncho blankets, those shiny ones.
Yeah.
We would use those and build tents out of those and stuff, and, yeah, we like, my dad had that whole background, so I was into Joe, we watched Tour of Duty together, back in the
Okay.
day. I remember putting my tomahawk together on the floor watching Tour of Duty with my dad. So, there was, like,
That's
a lot of that,
that's
you know?
my dad he served I think 3.5 years in the Navy, and he was a shore patrol for a while. So
Mhm.
I had his SP band. I wish that's and I'd wear it like whenever we went out and played. It's stuck out like a sore thumb. Like, you got this
Yeah, yeah,
SP, but no one
yeah.
knows SP. Everyone knows MP. No one knew what the shore patrol was, and it's one of those things. Like I really wish I still had it, just because Not only was it my dad's, but it's just something that I played with as a kid. I have no idea if I
Yeah, my
lost
dad
it in
was
the
actually in
woods.
the Navy too. He was CB. He was a CB. So
I just ordered 2 CBs last
oh
night,
yeah.
or actually maybe even this morning.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, he like I remember seeing his his blues in the basement at my grandparents' house with the hat, and I'm like,
Oh,
"What is
wow.
this?" As a little kid, he's like, "Oh, that's my blue like, uniform, my Navy uniform," and I'm like, I was so like as a little kid, I couldn't connect that to me is he was on a ship,
Yeah.
but then like he had all this military gear from being on like a fire base, you know what I mean? So I was like, "What? I don't understand." Not until I got older did I understand the difference, but like when you wear what and why. But yeah, and my grandparents, both my granddads were in World War II. My
Okay.
dad's father was in the Pacific, and my mom's father was a captain, a bomber pilot in
Oh,
Europe, and he
wow.
got actually shot down and was a Nazi POW for part of the war.
Oof.
But
Ooh.
he died when I was like one. He had a heart attack during like the blizzard of '77 or something, and they couldn't get because it was such a bad blizzard. They couldn't get him to the hospital or something on time. So so I don't remember him, but, my mom would tell me that, and there was some documentation she's got too. I have it now where it showed that he was a POW, and I guess he would, he in a lot of cases, he would eat with the Nazi officers because he was an officer, so they would take him out and let him eat with them.
I'm s
And I'm like, "What?" It was such a weird
I'm sorry, I'm just
thing.
thinking of Hogan's Heroes. Like, I have
Mhm.
Hogan's Heroes,
Yeah.
like, you watch Hogan's Heroes, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I used to watch that a lot.
My dad loved it, my mom hated it. She's
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, she was just like, "There's nothing funny about that stuff." They made it's like,
Yeah.
"It's not fun,"
Yeah.
and it's not, but, my dad and look, my dad, he's like, he served during Vietnam, but he's like, "I did not
Mhm.
serve in Vietnam. I was on a boat, so I didn't
Got
I
it.
didn't
Yeah.
serve." But just absolutely crazy. Um, but I love that because it does there is something about GI Joe because Vietnam, even though it was over, was still well in our minds.
Oh, yeah, for
That's
sure.
what we thought of.
Mhm.
The military was thought of a little bit different than it is today, I think,
Yeah.
back in the
I mean,
80s.
when that's one of the reasons why they were, like, little reluctant to relaunch GI Joe was because of that, like, kind of Vietnam hangover
Yeah.
in the late '70s, going into the '80s.
Yes.
But,
Colonel
yeah,
Klink was ridiculous.
I know. I watched the hell out of that when I was little,
I
Hogan's
started
Heroes.
I started watching it because it's on, Amazon Prime, and I was
Oh,
just
is
like,
it?
yeah,
Oh, I
like, I
gotta
was
watch
sitting
it.
down, and it was, like, one of those things where it's like, you wanna put something on, but you don't wanna, like, invest in something new, and I'm like,
Yeah,
"I'm
right.
gonna
Oh,
Hogan's
yeah.
Heroes on." My dad always loved it, he always and I
Mhm.
watched the first episode, I'm like, "This is fucking hilarious."
Yeah, it is
It's
it's
so
really good.
outrageous, it's so
Yep.
stupid, um, but then you watch it, and you're just like, "This is just comedy gold." And then you
Mhm.
see Richard Dawson, I'm like, "Oh, that's right, he was an actor."
Yeah. It's great. Like, I love watching those old shows. Like, I mean, honestly, I watch Golden Girl I watch the hell out of
I
Golden
love
Girls. I
Golden
the
Girls.
hell out of it.
If someone says they don't like Golden Girls, I think you're lying.
Dude, I remember, like, I would watch that as a kid, and I remember, like, everything seems to tie to GI Joe because I remember putting my warthog together on my bed, watching watching Golden Girls on my tiny little 13-inch black and white TV that I had in my
Oh,
bedroom.
you
You
had the
know,
black and white TV too with the
it was yep, it was a white plastic one with the
Yes,
rabbit ears and the circular antenna on the
yep.
back. Yeah, that was my first TV, hooked
Did we
up to
just become
no
best friends?
cable.
Did we just
What's
become
that?
best friends?
Oh, yeah, we are. I think we're best friends. I wish I still had that TV. I remember getting the TV and I felt like I had like 2, 4, and 7 and maybe one other channel. And I felt
Yeah,
like though it was like a window to the world. It's like a
two
10-year-old, you know?
247, and then here UHF was 20, 50, and 56 was PBS, which was the
Mhm.
one that probably had the best reception, but no one watched.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I got
Oh my god.
Empty Nest.
MASH. Oh my god,
Empty
yeah,
Nest
MASH.
is it's an underrated show. Not as
I
good as
watched
Golden Girls,
Yeah, I've
but
watched it a little bit recently and I'm like, "Wait a minute, Don Cheadle was in this?" I'm like, "That's crazy," and, Cheech Marin's in it. I'm like, "What is happening?" Yeah,
yeah,
it's, interesting.
so as you start getting a little bit older, and you go into middle school. Now you kind of already jumped ahead
Well,
to
yeah.
you get into middle school. You're clearly still playing with toys because you said that you were still collecting or playing in
Mhm.
high school. In middle school, did people know or what, or did it
Oh,
become hidden
yeah.
to you?
Yeah, I was when I went to, like, grade school, it was, so in Boston, New York, like I said, when I was really little, I think I went to, 1st grade there. Then I moved to East Aurora, and I started 2nd grade in East Aurora, and we did move to Florida for, like, a summer randomly, in, '84, and then moved back to the same house we moved from because it didn't sell, because they did, like my dad was my parents were like, "We don't wanna live here anymore," so we were there for, like, 3 months. But yeah, so, but yeah, I went to a Catholic school called Immaculate Conception. It's still there in East Aurora, and, yeah, I was there from 2nd to 8th grade. Yeah, and, yeah, it was not like, when you're in 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, everyone's playing with toys. We talked about toys and stuff. As you started to get older, though, it became a little more frowned upon, but I still remember, like, I remember we did, you do the Secret Santa thing, and I think I want to say it was 6th or 7th grade. We did a Secret Santa, and my mom totally had whoever the kid was that got me, obviously, I think got the toy from my mom to give to me because it was a Maverick, Battle Force 2000 Maverick. And then my mom had got us other Battle Force 2000 stuff that Christmas. So I'm pretty sure she just broke off the Maverick, gave it to this kid to give to me in school. So, that's pretty sure that's what happened. But yeah, I all through grade school I was in the Joes. Even like in eighth grade field trip, we went to Montreal.
So
So we
let me
took.
ask,
Okay, go ahead.
did you have middle school 6 through 8, or was that all part of your grade school?
All grade school was first through eighth or second through eighth for me.
Okay, see, we had middle school, which was 6 to 8, and I feel like
No, we didn't
for
have that.
me,
No.
that's when we all hid that we were playing, but we all really were. And now that we look back, we're like, shit, we were all playing with toys, but we were hiding it. And Todd C quickly in the description is a link to his YouTube and Instagram, so you can jump in there.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm just starting off trying to like there's old YouTube stuff from years ago. I'm just trying to get back to it. So it's just kind of like I've got ideas for it, but I'm not gonna really press it. I'm not gonna be a YouTuber. I just want to like put some stuff out
That's
there,
how we all
So
start out. Oh no, Paul's frozen again. Paul, don't freeze again, because I already do enough of this on my own. Uh, well, Paul is frozen. Quickly, I want to just let's see here. Viper Scout says it was a while before I heard the lyrics to the MASH theme. Boy, is it depressing. I don't know if I've ever heard the lyrics to MASH, but MASH is just depressing in general when you actually think about um, what it actually is.
there we go.
Oh, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if that was me this time though. It didn't tell me anything was wrong, so I have no idea what's going on.
I don't
It's
know.
probably me, but I have no idea. Yeah, it's usually pretty solid, so I have no idea what's happening.
You're kind of grainy right now, but
Yeah, maybe it is me. I don't know. I got all my other devices off Wi-Fi. I made sure they were off, but I don't know what's happening. So I'll keep an eye on it.
anyway. Okay, so your middle school or your elementary went up to 8th grade. So
Yeah.
basically,
Yep.
so was every kid was still playing with toys, or was
Well,
it?
up to a point.
Yeah.
I think 6th, 7th, 8th grade they probably weren't as much, but I was.
Okay.
So I remember by 7th, 8th grade I was trying to keep it on the DL, but I wasn't also keeping it a secret either. I wouldn't bring them to school or talk about them or anything. So but yeah, it was a rough go at that school. I was pretty quiet. I kept to myself. I tried to kind of just recede into the background as much as possible. I did a lot of drawing and stuff, so people would like check out my drawings, but the older kids, I get picked on a lot and stuff, and I would just take it. But the nuns and stuff, man, they would pick on me all the time. I remember one time I was doodling in my like I had a little reporter notebook for notes.
Yeah.
I remember every page was a doodle. I would just draw and draw. I draw like cassettes, tape cassettes with faces and wings, and I would draw all these things.
Really?
And I remember the girl, Danielle Hyman was her name, and she sat next to me in the back. We're in the back row, and she was quiet too. She was cool. I thought. And there was like every social studies chapter. Remember, they had like the 5 questions in the back, and you had to answer them, at the end of every
Yeah.
chapter. And you're supposed to answer them, but you don't turn them in. The teacher would just call random people, go through 5 people through the 5 questions, and you would move on. And it was Sister Ann Therese, I remember, and she was like the bulldog, like Sergeant Slaughter nun of the place, 6th grade. And she called on me, and I was like, oh, and I said the answer, and I knew the answer, and I was good. Let's move on. Well, I didn't write it down. I just knew the answer. Danielle puts her hand up, and I remember being like, what is she doing? And she's like, Paul didn't actually do the homework. He's just doodling. And then class was now over, and it was call Paul up to the front, and the next half hour, 20 minutes, felt like a lifetime. She just went through every drawing in my notebook and mocked it out in front of the whole class just laughed at all her like mock. So that was like my experience in like Catholic school. Was just not great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fuck
yeah.
you, Danielle. Fuck you.
I know. I told this story on Thursday Night Battles. People are like, you should find her. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. All this stuff is like great character building stuff. I'm glad it happened. It wouldn't be the person I am without that kind of stupid stuff.
Yeah, but if you saw Danielle today at Target and she's like, hey, Paul, my God. When she walked away,
I bring it up.
You turn around and you'd be like,
no, I wouldn't be mean about it. I'll just be like, hey, remember, I got a fun memory, Danielle. Remember when you narked me out to Sister Ann Therese and ruined my life? Do you remember that? And she'll be like, no, I don't. And I'm like, okay, well, you don't remember.
Well, I went into the bottle. I've been in rehab 14 times.
I should
make it worse.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would be hilarious. I cry myself to sleep every night still.
Yeah, you know her name. You remember. Like, it's probably a vivid memory that just kind of sits right there. That you're like,
oh yeah, it was like a moment in time where I was like, this is the worst thing that could happen to me, and it just stuck. This is the kind of teacher that like everyone had an assigned desk, and there were those old desks that the top would open, and it would feel like a metal bowl with all your stuff inside of it. Well, she would check every morning to see if your desk was a mess, and if it was, she would tip it upside down and empty everything out and then leave it upside down. And if you came into class and your stuff had been flipped upside, you had to stand there the rest of the day. You didn't get to clean it. You just had to stand the rest of the day.
I firmly believe that if they would just let nuns and priests get married, they probably wouldn't be so angry.
No, I don't. Right.
In all honesty, right? Like they probably wouldn't be so damn angry.
Yeah. I mean, my dad had it worse. He would tell me stories. He went to Catholic school in the 50s, and he would tell me about the rulers, and getting smacked and, and all that kind of stuff. So at least they weren't physical with us.
Yeah. Just damn Danielle.
Yeah. Whatever.
So when you go into high school, are you still in private school or do you go to a
No, I went to public high school. Yeah. I went to East Aurora High School.
Now you said that you still had toys for the first couple of years. Now, did people know, or was this kind of Paul's little hidden secret?
There was one kid who lived 2 doors down from me. His name was Jamie, and he was a year ahead of me, so he got to high school first. And I remember him telling me, like it was like the first couple weeks of school. He's like, "Hey, remember, don't let anyone know you're still collecting toys." And I'm like, he like looking out for me. And I'm like, I know. Thanks, man. So I kept it on the DL, obviously. And once you get in there, especially because a lot of the kids I didn't know, even though it's a small town, there's a lot of kids I either heard about but didn't know, or just didn't know at all because they went to middle school. They didn't go to the Immaculate School. So it was an adjustment. It was tough the first few years there because I was always undersized. I always looked 10 years younger than I am. So like now it works, but when you're in 9th grade, not so good. Not so good.
Well, I know. But you had a little brother that you could kind of say, well, they're his toys, right? Or was he?
He didn't hit high school till I was junior. So he was.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If someone came over, you could be like, "Oh, they're his toys."
Oh no, yeah, I just didn't let anyone come over.
You just throw him under the bus like Danielle threw you under the bus.
I know. I could have. Yeah, I don't think I was smart enough to do that, or I just didn't let people come into my room or whatever. But, yeah.
So now, did you get into collecting comic books? Like, were you collecting comics, or were you just okay? So you collected comics.
Yeah, my first comic was G.I. Joe 23. That was the Cobra Commander captured one
Okay.
with Roadblock and Grunt on the cover. And that was my first comic. And then I just collected, I was all Joe comics. In fact, that goes back to the Montreal store. When I went in 8th grade on my Montreal field trip, I remember we went into, this is how detached I was from whatever was going on. A group of us went down, we were staying in a hotel, but underneath there was like an underground shopping center attached. So
Oh
we went
wow.
down to like the bookstore there, and they were trying to buy a penthouse, and they were trying to convince them that they were old enough to buy it. Meanwhile,
In eighth
I'm
grade.
standing behind these guys with GI Joe 101 in my hand, 101 or 102. It's got the October Guard on the cover, and I'm gonna buy it, right? And they're like, "You're gonna get us, but we're trying to act like we're old enough to buy this, and you got a comic book." And I'm like, "I'm buying the comic book. I'm sorry, but I'm buying this thing." But yeah, so it was all Joe comics up until I still remember it. I went to it was a Noco Express shop, and it was like a gas station place, and I went looking for a GI Joe comic. I don't remember what year it was, probably 91, maybe 92, and they didn't have any, but they had X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 276, and it was the one with Wolverine holding a Professor Xavier with his claws out on like an all white cover. And I was
Okay.
like, what is this? It was Jim Lee cover. I'm like, what is this? This art is insane. And then I got into like all that stuff in the 90s, X-Men. And when Image came out, I had all the Young Bloods and the, all that whole thing. I went through that whole thing. So
Curse Image.
yeah, the Feel the Blood covers,
I feel like I bought every Image #1
Mhm.
because Spawn #1, which I didn't have Spawn #1, but then I started buying all the Image ones because I'm like, these are going to be worth money.
Yep.
They
Everyone
ain't
thought
worth
that. Yeah.
money,
I've got
right?
like 12 Spawn #1s in a box still,
Oh, well, see, those are actually
hearted.
worth money.
Yeah, we
I
got bought me between me and my brother, we bought a ton. So we've got all that stuff. And I started collecting back issues, once I got an X-Men. I remember traded my Super Nintendo for an Uncanny X-Men #5 from 1960, whatever. So I have that. But yeah. So I still have all of my brother's got that entire comic collection. He just rebacked and bagged everything. So we've got all that stuff at his place. My place is just mostly all Joe comics here.
Those Joe like the last Marvel ones are worth a lot of money. I know
Yeah,
because I sold them.
Yeah, I was out of it by then because I remember I hated Andrew Wildman's art. I remember being like, "This sucks. I don't want this anymore." But I do have I'm missing a couple, but I have 155 and I have a few of the other later ones too. Now,
When I decided to sell off my stuff, I had 2 155s. I don't know why. And I had like the last, I think 30. I made a few $1,000s selling them off. But
damn,
both those 155s each sold for over 200. And
that's crazy.
they weren't graded. And of course, like I don't, none of them were boarded. They were all just bagged. All my comics were bagged, but I think because they were so tight that I didn't have to worry about them shifting
Oh
or
yeah,
anything.
uh-huh.
And obviously, I boarded them all before I sold them. And I remember reading like um, the eBay remarks that people would leave for me, and most of them were said like, "This comic's probably in better condition than he said," which I was like, "Well, shit."
That's funny.
Like now, it makes you feel good. You didn't have to worry about someone saying, "Oh yeah, he
Oh
said
yeah,
this was mint, but it wasn't."
right.
So you're stupid. But like those like last 20 GI Joe were worth
I
a
know.
good amount of money.
I know.
Which I was,
They were lower print runs, so they're harder to find. Yeah,
and again, I needed the money at the time,
Mhm.
or actually, I don't even know if I needed the money as much as actually I didn't need the money. I just wanted to get rid of them because I'm like, I don't need them.
Mhm.
And then the ones that I kept were my original ones that were all beat up and not worth anything anyway. But I'm like, these are the ones that I read
Yeah.
over and over and over,
Yeah.
and they're the ones that me like. I have issue number 21. It's my original. It is
Mhm.
not worth 21 cents because it is that beat up.
But that's all that history is there. That
Yes.
is the one that you had as a kid. I still have a few of those Joe ones. I've got like issue 100, no cover on it anymore, but I still have it, and it's there's something sentimental about that,
Yeah, all those ones that I have like 10. I want to say I have 17 maybe.
Mhm.
21 out of nowhere. And then around maybe 28, 29, I think, you start to see when I started picking up each and almost every single month
Mhm.
of getting one, they're beat up. They weren't bad. They weren't bored, like nothing like that. But I read
Yeah,
them,
was it yeah,
and
yeah,
even if they were in mint condition, I would not have sold them because those ones are like, this is what I remember
right.
reading over and over and over.
Yeah.
Those Storm Shadow Snake Eyes covers I always thought were the best covers ever
Oh,
made.
yeah, the Mike Zeck covers, so good.
Is that the one with Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes next to each other,
Mhm.
and then you
They're
have
kinda in that, like, framed in that little orange
yep,
background. Yeah, that's a Mike Zeck
I
cover,
have that
yeah.
one hung on my GI Joe room. The one with Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes looking out the window with Stalker, Snow Job, and Quick Kick, I believe,
Oh,
when
where
they're
they're looking where
captured.
they're yeah, that I don't know who did that cover. I don't know if it might have been Mike Zeck, but
They were
yeah,
just
that was a great story arc, man. That was one of the best.
yeah, but anyway, I digress. So when you get into high school, like
Yeah.
what are you doing? I mean, first you have toys, but do you kind of get out of toys? You get into music, sports?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I always was into sports, but just like neighborhood stuff, not organized. Like I love playing street hockey. I love backyard baseball. We do like sandlot kind of baseball all the time as a kid. I love that stuff. Just pick up football games. You know.
Those
Yeah.
Image comics are gonna be worth a fortune after there's a run on TP in the weeks to come. You know
That's
what?
funny.
I do have a few more boxes full of comics that aren't worth anything, so maybe that's what they'll get
Hmm.
used for.
What you might need it. Yeah. We don't know. But yeah, I didn't play any organized sports in high school. I remember I tried out for basketball one time and I did decent, but like the coach already had his team. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, well, he's already got enough guys for the team based
Yeah.
on last year's team. So it's like, so I didn't really do that. I was doing more illustration and drawing and comic book kind of drawing and stuff. And then me and my brother would make our own comic books. We would pencil, ink, letter, like do the whole thing, measure out all the lines with a ruler, all the
Yeah.
letting and spacing for all the word balloons. We do all that. So I was doing a lot of that at my grandparents' house in the summers. Their basements were really cool. They didn't have AC, but in the basement it was like ice cold. I remember
Yes.
spending summers down there because my parents or my grandparents were my dad, grandpa did a lot of woodworking. My grandmother was a painter, so they had like drawing tables and things set up in the basement. So we would use
Okay.
those. So
Now
I did a lot of that in high school.
are you good at art?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I used to do illustration. I used to do illustration work. I was a
Oh,
graphic
cool.
designer for an art director for a period of time. So yeah, I've kind of shifted more into user experience design. So I do
Oh,
UX design for e-commerce and stuff. So I've been doing that for like 20, well, some version of that for like 20 years. Yeah,
okay. So basically you're going through high school and you're just a nerd through high school, collecting
pretty
comics.
much. Yeah,
You're
pretty
not
much.
doing any organized sports. It sounds like you're
Nope.
not part of the cool kids club.
No,
Uh,
no. I mean, I did get into like, I mean, we're talking, was this 91, 92? So I was into like Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath, and I got into like all heavy metal stuff back then,
okay.
Slayer and whatever. And I was listening to a lot of that music. Then in around 93, it started to switch to like more hip hop stuff, like Eazy-E and NWA, and I was doing all that stuff, and it was like a mix. Remember the Judgment Night soundtrack was a big deal because it was like heavy metal and hip hop at the same time, and it was this big deal. So I was doing some of that. So I was experimenting, like listening to different kinds of music, but I was still kind of just doing my own thing. So
Now, are you collecting toys or picking up toys, or do you actually just stop?
I think I remember I was getting toys through, like I remember getting some of the Air Commandos. I got like
Oh,
Night
wow.
Vulture and stuff, and I remember getting like Incinerators and that Destro version with like the shooting discs. And that mostly Joe stuff was trickling in still. And then at some point, I remember like after Incinerators or that Destro, I was like, I don't like the build of these anymore. I don't like the barrel chests. The colors are a little too bright, but it was mostly about like not the brightness, just the fewer paint apps I was
Yeah, I
getting
feel
to.
like
Like,
Hasbro made it easy for people
yeah,
our age to be like, you know what? I don't really like toys anymore.
that's what it was. It felt like you're making this easy for me, like the Heat Viper version 2. Like he's all green with black paint apps and maybe like just his his skin tone. There's no other paint apps on the guy. Like it's just so like if even with the bright colors, if they had a few more hits of different color paint,
Yeah.
silvers and browns for straps and things, it would have made it look a little more premium, but it just kind of looked cheap. So I was like, eh,
And
that was
I
it.
remember when Sergeant Savage came out, and I was like, because that would have been what, 95, I think.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just graduated high school, and I was kind of
Mhm.
like, again, I'm a skateboarder. My friends are skateboarders, but we're also punk rockers. We're already part of like us collecting toys or being like buying toys isn't like we're not going to really be making fun of each other. We're already doing the things that are looked down upon, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and my best friend was a huge Star Wars guy, but I remember seeing Sergeant Savage and being so disappointed, not
Yeah, I remember
because
seeing that too. Yeah.
it was not because it wasn't advancing GI Joe, it was the wrong scale, and
Yeah.
I wanted to fit with the stuff that I had, and there was no way you were going to be able to mesh it. And I think Sergeant Savage and all that stuff, I think that would be awesome and classified. I think that is I
Oh,
think
yeah.
if they classified it, that would be
Yep.
awesome.
Some of those characters were kind of they'd be really fun and
Yeah.
classified with that articulation. I remember in Sergeant Savage, you're right, wrong scale, but also it was like the Kenner team after they acquired Kenner took
Yeah.
GI Joe, and so it was Kenner builds, like real Star Warsy, less articulation,
Yep.
more like superhero builds where their like chests are stupid big, and I'm
But
like,
they looked cool. Like the box and the artwork, I'm
yep,
like, this
yep.
oh,
Yeah, they could have done better with it, but again, it is what it is. But you're right. If they said it, I know Lenny and that team has said like anything's on the table. I would
yes.
love to see even like Sigma 6 stuff, any like cool stuff that was just
Yep.
the wrong time or the wrong scale or the wrong build, but now in the classified build where it meshes with the rest of the line. That would be really
Exactly.
interesting. Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people say, "Well, that wouldn't work with what Classified's doing." But it's like, listen, I can take the original Duke and Roadblock and even Gung Ho, like they fit in. All right,
Yeah.
they're just a little bit more sci-fi, not a big deal.
I
I mean,
mean,
if you can't figure out to
yeah.
make that work, then I'm sorry, that's on you.
GI Joe. I mean, at its core, it is sci-fi, right? It's sci-fi
Yes,
military, right? It's like if you took the two ideas and you smashed them together, that's what it is.
I
Like a
literally gave it
bat
to guys
is
sci-fi.
a bat is a robot soldier. Like that's you can't get much more sci-fi than that. So
Yeah, not Rachel. Yeah, I'd see.
oh
I'd
yeah,
like to
Iron
see a
Claw. That's who I was
claw
thinking of.
in the
Yeah,
classified line. Yeah, like that. That is just sitting there saying, "Make a classified version of this." And again, if you did the Sergeant Savage, you can say, "Hey, this is the early it's these are the early GI Joes. Like this is before it
hmm
was called GI Joe, and all you have to do is you can either throw one in or do a whole wave of them. And a lot of times you don't
right.
want to do a whole wave. You want to throw one in there and see how it works.
Yeah, just like sprinkle one in here and there. You know what I mean? Like I would think it would be cool. Like even like the Overkill, the second, not the second version Overkill. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I have a custom one that somebody made here. You know what I mean? It's
That
pretty
looks cool.
awesome. It's just
Because
mostly like a Deathlock figure, like a Marvel
yeah,
Legend, but
that
like something
overkill is
like this
really
is fun.
stupid.
Yeah.
Like
What's that?
like that overkill is really stupid. Not the one
Yeah,
not what
yeah.
you have there, but I
No,
know
I
the
know.
one that I have is I hate the figure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. I know. Like, well, if they don't have like a good build, or they just kind of look funny, or the articulation isn't there, it kind of like, eh. But if you make them cool, you can make them cool. You just have
Yes.
to make some tweaks here and there.
We bought those GI Joe 2 packs. The Versus 2 pack.
Hmm.
Was it Valor versus Venom at the time? Is that
Yeah,
what they're
yeah. They
called?
did those.
Like, they were
Hmm.
awful articulation, awful builds. I still have them, and I remember collecting them, and I enjoyed having them.
Yeah,
Other
yeah.
than they were hard to fit into some vehicles because of how their feet went, how their legs
Hmm.
went. Um,
Yeah.
but I enjoy them, you know.
Yeah, it's just a different era. That's all. It's that's what I love about J. There's a lot of eras and there's a lot of themes, right? You have,
Yeah,
military theme, then you've got the sci-fi themes, you've got things like, a vamp or a mauler, and then you have like a buzzbore. I love the contrast between crazy sci-fi stuff and the military. If it was all the same, like all sci-fi, then I'd be like, eh. If it was all military, I'd be like, eh. but when you mash them together, it's kind of fun. That's
And
what I
it
always
gives you an out. Like, you don't have to buy like,
Yeah.
if you're like, "Hey, I like classic military," then you buy
Mhm.
the military stuff.
Yeah, you can pick and choose exactly what you
But
like,
I also
you know?
have a hard when people bitch about that, I'm kinda like, you see who they're fighting, right? They're fighting orange guys with shields. I don't think that's very
And robot
tactical.
soldiers and a
Yeah.
guy made from the DNA of, dead,
And a former dentist that doesn't wear a shirt, like, how do you go into that dentist's office and not be like, "You're not wearing a shirt and you have a cape. I'm out of here."
Yep.
All right?
But I always loved it as a kid. I remember loving, like, Raptor, how goofy he was, and reading his file card and be like, "Oh my god, this guy's crazy." And then seeing him in the comic book made him cooler to me, you know what I mean? Like, he
Now
built the
you sound like
battle armor.
Matthew.
Yeah, like, he's, like, just totally out there crazy, but he uses the birds for surveillance. I'm like, "This is cool," you know? But it's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine, you know? It's cool.
Exactly. You don't have to collect everything.
Yeah.
I do because that's who I am, but I'm also doing reviews. But,
Mhm.
just because they're numbered doesn't mean you have to collect them, and
Right, and
if it's
everyone
Marvel
has their
Legends or
own.
whatever.
Yeah, everyone's got their own personal headcanon, and that's perfectly fine, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, the headcanon, I prefer people's headcanon over when they say, "Well, that's not what the cartoon did." Like, yeah, the cartoon was lame. As much as
I
I
love the
love it,
cartoon. I
yeah,
love the cartoon.
as a kid, yes,
Not
but when
deep,
you
but
yeah, but again, when I think of what the actual canon is, I go back
Mhm,
to file cards, but what
mhm.
Larry Hama is, he's George Lucas,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
for sure.
A
Mhm.
real American hero is his baby,
Yep.
and when he says Quick Kick was stupid or he didn't like Shipwreck,
Yep.
let's do it. I'm with you.
But I love both of those guys, you know what I mean? And it's okay,
I
you
hate both
know?
of those
Like,
guys.
well, I some of the, like, like, with the background, like, of some of the stuff I've been, working on in life over time, like, writing stuff and doing
Yeah.
comic books but, like, when I watched the G.I. Joe cartoon, I was like, "Oh my god, these guys were" they were smoking some serious weed, and they were probably, like, like, they were probably having like, I see how much fun they were having behind the scenes, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Hasbro had very like, one rule, "Don't kill anybody," but otherwise, do what you want, is within FCC rules, and they're like, "Okay." So then they're, like, writing stories about Cobra backing a candidate and doing these, like, heady stuff under a layer of goofy, cheesy cartoon. Like,
Yeah.
"We're gonna eliminate the world's money supply and light it all on fire, so you have to buy Cobra currency." I'm like, "This is, like, heady stuff for kids." Like, you would never do that on, like, a SpongeBob show, you know what I mean?
It's
So,
basically
I
crypto. They were doing
yeah, I
crypto
know.
before anyone else.
Or the Springfield episode where, like, everyone's melting and he's, like, been, brainwashed. I'm like, "Oh, this is crazy," you know? So, it's
No,
kind of like an acid trip sometimes, you know?
there are some good, like, I would love for them to do a whole wave of, World Without End. Is that what it
Oh, I know. That'd
right?
be
That's
great.
World Without End? Like,
Mhm.
that storyline, like, that is something that, like, that's where you need to take a comic and be like, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna do a whole comic line on
Yeah.
that."
Yeah, like, what's going on in that dimension right now,
Start right from when it ends, because we never
Mhm.
see anything. Do a whole comic line. No, it doesn't matter what it is. It's completely different. No one can go, "That's not how it was." Like,
Yeah, it's just self-contained.
and I
Yeah,
think
this
people would
universe, yeah.
love it.
Oh, I would be kinda like, honestly, now that you say it and thinking about it, that should be on Skybound's, like, if they have a board of ideas for GI
Yes,
Joe, that should be one of
that should be at the
at the top
top.
of the board. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
because you don't have to have Hama write it. You don't have
No.
it doesn't have to
Yep.
connect to the and I'm not reading the comics. I know people yell at me I should be because I hear they're absolutely awesome.
How
I
dare you? No, I'm
I
just
know.
kidding.
It was just another expense to get into that
Mhm.
I know what happens when I walk into a comic shop. I'm only gonna buy the GI Joe, and then I'm
Yep.
like, "Oh, look, but that Transformers," and then I'm like, "Hey,
Mhm.
what's going on with Wolverine? Oh, look at the rest of the X-Men," and next thing I know, it's
Yeah.
$50 a week, and then it's $100 a week,
Yep.
and next thing you know, you're buying comics that you don't even read.
I just picked up Real American Hero 316 today at my comic shop, but what I do is I have them pull the order, right? and then they email me when it's in, and then I go in and I just walk straight to the register. I'm like, I have a pull, and they pull it out and they charge me, and I walk. I don't look at anything else on the
You
table.
put
So I
on those
just take my
little
thing.
those horse
Yep.
blinders, and you're just
Yep.
like,
Because otherwise, I'll be coming home with graphic novels and compendiums, and like, oh, I
yeah,
missed this whole series, so I'll just buy the $50 compendium. Like, why not?
exactly. And
Yeah, I know.
and again, I know what happens. I can go into a comic shop and not buy anything, but the
Mhm.
moment I buy one, I'm like, well, I might as well get this too.
I
And
know. I
then you're
know.
like, dude, I love Batman. What's going? Oh man, you know.
It's like the gateway. It's like a gateway drug. You just come in for one thing, and next thing you know, you got a kilo of cocaine.
Quip says that's the only way to do it, Paul. And Random saying need to 3D print some blinders.
Right? Yeah, that'd be you'd be like probably like, what's up with this dude?
Yeah, you could
Come
probably
with, like,
sell those
blinders on.
sell those like, hey, comic book blinders, so you don't you don't veer off.
Oh, Action's saying, yeah, we didn't get the Fisher Price Adventure people, but yeah, I had tons. I had tons of those, and they mixed in with my Joes. Everyone in my neighborhood had that because people were getting freebies from Fisher Price all the time too. So we had tons of them. They were everywhere. Yeah, I had the parachutes. So I had the regular start. It was like the one panel was orange, one panel was yellow, one panel was white with blue stars on it.
Okay.
And it had like blue what do you call it, rigging straps, and I would put my Joes in that, and I would throw it up, and you throw it up as high as I could straight up in the air, and then it was a nylon chute, so it was better than like the plastic ones that you do with
Oh.
the parachute pack. But then they made Constructs vehicles. Constructs, you kind of put them together.
Construct.
Yeah, well, they had a whole military line of those for a little period, and they made a camouflage parachute with that same nylon, and I remember having those, and I used that
Wow.
for all my Joe missions. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I had lots of that stuff.
the adventure people. I had the blue and white boat, which
Yeah, I still have that. Yeah, the
I
shark one,
love that.
right?
I need to get that.
Yeah,
Yeah. What was it
Sea
called?
Explorer, I think it was called the Sea
Yeah,
Explorer.
and
Yeah,
it had the you know, that little yellow kind of submarine.
yeah.
And I forgot all about that thing till I was looking at it. But I want to get that Fisher Price boat again. Not only because it's super cool, but I need something for Leatherneck and what are the two Joes that look like they're going fishing?
Oh, yeah, the Gung
Leather.
Ho version, whatever 3, I think. Gung Ho, where he looks like the fisherman. He's got the tan hat and
But I
like
don't have
the
that
tan
one.
vest.
But there's I know I have Leatherneck and
Or did I
then
say? Or is it not Gung Ho?
Footloose. I think Footloose.
Bazooka. Sorry, Bazooka is what I meant.
Okay. Oh yeah,
Sorry.
maybe that's Bazooka. So
Yeah,
I
that's
have
what I
them both, and right now they're sitting in the dinghy of the flag. But I need to
Oh,
get like an actual fishing boat for them.
yeah.
And get little 3D printed fishing hooks and have them just have their own little fishing, because that's what they look like. I
Yeah,
mean,
years ago, I did like just a quick photo of I used the Barracuda from what's his name? Destro's diver guy. Why am I blowing a blank? Anyway, the Barracuda, little silver Barracuda that
yeah.
came with him. And I have like a picture of like Leatherneck, and I think that Bazooka, like they caught it, you know, and I have like a little tiny little cooler and little bags of chips and stuff like they were fishing. And then I got like wetsuit, looks like he's coming out of the water, like on a dock, giving like a thumbs up, you know, or something. So
Undertow.
Undertow, that's it. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. But yeah, they look like fishermen. Yeah, so that boat would work perfect for them.
Yeah, and it's not that expensive either.
No,
But
you can get that. I'm in a couple of adventure people groups, and they're usually, you can get stuff there pretty cheap. Like I got a couple they're in the closet over there. Remember the X-ray man and X-ray woman, they're green, kind of translucent.
I think so.
I have them on card. The cards are beat, but they've never been opened, and I got them off that group for like nothing. You know, a couple bucks, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that boat, and that boat was like, it floated for a while, but the wheel on the bottom was eventually going to let it. But the wheel made sense because you didn't always have water, but you always had somewhere you could push it.
Yeah, like in your carpet at home.
Yeah,
you know,
and that wheel was just right in the middle, like it just.
I know.
It just bobbed, and then that little submarine or whatever it was That thing was awesome.
Yeah, are you talking about one with the bubble top? It's kind of like a bubble dome at the
You
top.
just kind of shoved the figure inside of it. It's yellow.
Mm-hmm.
The figure just sat kind of like the Night Raven, uh,
Oh, the drone.
the
Yeah.
drone. Like
Mm-hmm.
you just shoved them in there, and
Yeah.
it didn't really float. It always would,
Oh, yeah.
eventually submerge. Like
Yeah.
every GI Joe thing ever, other
Yeah.
than the
Slowly fill with water, and it's
yeah,
just
other
kind of.
than the I don't care what anyone says, other than the whale and at least from what I had, the whale and the APC are the only GI Joe things that did not sink.
Me, I remember having good success with the water moccasin as long as I didn't splash water on it.
Or that as long as you didn't splash, as
Yeah.
long as it sat there and there were no waves and
Right.
nothing rocked.
Because it was has such a low profile, it was
Yes.
real easy for water to get in it. Yeah.
The hydrofoil, that thing just, man, you set that thing in and thing automatically started going down like the Titanic.
Yeah, it's because of the mechanism underneath for the hydrofoil fins. Yeah, it just water would just go right in. Yeah.
The devilfish, same concept though. As long as it didn't splash, once it started splashing, the whale was never going down. That thing, that and the APC, you could fill it with water and those things weren't going to sink.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, on to after you graduate high school. That's what I got to do. I got to get back. So after you graduated high school, did you go on to college or did
I went to like right away I went to like a Bryan and Stratton college just for graphic design. This was been in 95, so we were still doing like mechanicals, like you were like I had Photoshop 2 and like you had like I think a max of like 3 layers or something and like 1 undo back then. And then we were doing mechanicals with Ruby Lith and stuff for print. It was all like this like manual stuff. So I learned how to do a lot of that. But then, my dad would, you're at that age where you can't get certain grants or certain loans until you're a little older. My dad made too much money. So like for tuition, like it just got to a point where I couldn't continue. So I did like 2 semesters, I think, and I dropped out of there. And then I just worked a ton. I mean, I've worked so many different kinds of jobs in my life, like everything from like working in a nursing home to soldering motherboards to construction. I did plastering for a while. I was in a carpenter's union for a while. Then I did I tended bar for years, probably 20 years. That was always a constant, tending bar. Deliver pizzas, wash dishes. I mean, I've done so many different things. And then eventually I think I was about, and then I moved into a house. Some of my friends got out of college. We got a house together. It was like 5 or 6 of us, depending on the time period. We were all living in a house together, and we were just partying like nonstop. Like no one would lock the doors. I'd come home. There'd be just people there I don't know. I'd be like, "Who are you?" And they'd be like, "We're friends with so and so." And I'm like, "I don't know who that is either." So they were just. It was crazy. We had to padlock our bedrooms because I didn't know who was going to be in there. All my stuff's in my bedroom, so we'd have padlocks for our bedrooms. And we'd throw parties and we'd have DJs on different floors. And it was like this whole thing. We did this stupid thing. We were doing a house party. We went downtown to the clubs, made flyers and put them in the bars downtown for our house party. And then so many people showed up for the house party. I remember the floors were like bowing and it was like scary. Like, oh, are the floors going to collapse? Like what's going to happen? So that was a whole thing. The cops showed up and they were like, this is insane. And then we were checking IDs and charging cover. And then the cops are like, you're checking IDs? Like, this is crazy. And they're calling their friend. They're like, we got to come check out this party. Then they started checking the IDs for us. They're like, we can't touch the money, but we'll check the IDs for you. I'm like, what is happening right now? And then finally they were like, the supervisor came. He's like, no, you got to shut this down. What are you doing? So that was crazy. But so I did that for a few years where I was just partying all the time. And then it was like, I remember one morning I woke up and I remember being like, if I don't go back to school or something, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life, So I just got up. I went to Bryan Stratton. I was probably like 25 at the time, I want to say. And I just enrolled in school. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. I don't know what's going to happen. I just need to go back to school. And then I went to Bryan Stratton and finished there. Then I went to University of Buffalo and I got a bachelor's in communication design from there. So that's kind of like what happened.
Okay.
Notes.
All right, so quickly, Toy Optics says the Warthog floated. Now, that was after my time. I didn't have the Warthog.
It did float.
People told me, and I think the Warthog was it was built in the same concept that the APC was, I believe.
Yeah, it was just like basically
Yeah.
a big
I know it's not the
flat
same, but
bottom. Even
yep.
though APC had molding on or molded
Yeah.
detail on the bottom, but the Warthog's just kind of a flat bottom with
Yeah.
like not a lot of entry points for water, so that thing could just buoy itself.
Yeah. Same concept. And I gotta say, like the Warthog is one that that's one that I really do want, but it's expensive.
Yeah, I love the Warthog. I've got like that one, and I've got the convention brown one with the camo on it. You
Okay.
ever seen that one?
I don't think
The
so.
Joe Club one? It's up here. Hold on, let me grab it.
I know
This
that.
one is like one of my favorites. I didn't put the stickers on it yet, but this one is
Ooh,
one of my favorites. So the
see that
antenna's off it right here.
that is
But
just a
yeah.
good looking vehicle, even with the big giant
Yeah.
stupid missiles.
Yeah,
But
I
that's
love this
GI
thing.
Joe. That's GI Joe right there. You know.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember I mean Warthog, I remember getting it and it instantly became my favorite vehicle at the time. I just
That's
loved it.
something. Like I said, I've looked at it, Sergeant Reds, and I think it's in the 200s. It's still in the like they still have one in the box, and I'm like, but it's not the one with Sergeant Slaughter though. I think
Which
it's a
one?
night. I think it's a Night Force Warthog.
Oh, the one that came out, a Real American Hero collection. Yeah, that came with like a Dusty or something.
Yeah,
They called him Dusty, but he was like gray with a black beret. And I have that one too in the box. I've never opened it.
yeah, very
Yeah,
expensive, and they have one an open one too, and they're all just like they're just. It's one of
I
those
know.
things where it's like I
I have a
Night
box
Rhino.
Warthog up
Yes,
there.
that's what it's called. Thank you very much, Viper Scout.
Yeah, the
Viper
Night
Scout.
Rhino. That's it. Yeah. I have a
I
box
got
Warthog.
Night
It's
Force right.
open, but it's what's that?
I got the Night Force right. Right.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was Night Force. It was black with like silver missiles.
It's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah, it
And
looks
it's
good.
in the box. I see it all the time when I go to Sergeant Reds, and I'm just like, it's just out of my price point
I know. They're
for what I
not
want
it's
to
not
buy for
cheap.
vintage stuff.
Mhm.
Because I wouldn't leave it in the box. I'd have to open that up.
Yeah, well, that's where I've got a lot of boxed vehicles, and my plan is I originally bought them to assemble them because for me, as a kid, that was like my biggest thrill is putting it together and putting the stickers on. I would like I remember getting the maggot, and I remember waiting for the perfect moment to. So my brother put his together right away. I waited like 3 days. Like, I'm like, no, it's got to be the right moment. So then I'm watching. What is that? I always forget the name of it. It's the Clint Eastwood movie where he's in like the Alps and it's World War II and he's on like I don't remember the name, Where Eagles Dare maybe or something. Anyway, so that movie was on and I'm like, okay, now is the time to put the Warthog together. I had a snack and everything. And I open it up and the first thing that happens is Worms just falls apart. His O-ring was broken. And I was like, what? And then my mom's like, stop what you're doing. We got to take it back. And I'm like, oh, I waited all this time and now I can't even put it together. I remember being so disappointed. So we had to return it to the store.
I love that you have these vivid memories of like
Oh, yeah.
watching something while putting. I don't have any. I mean, I have a lot of memories too, but I don't have any memories of like, all right, this is on, and I'm watching this movie while doing this.
Yeah, I can't remember what I did yesterday, but I can tell you that for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Ed says we're Eagles. We're
Yes.
Eagles there.
So I was watching that. Yeah, I remember it was summertime. Yeah, it was a good time. My grandmother was visiting from Florida. I remember that day like it was yesterday, but like I said yesterday, I'm like, I don't know what I did. I don't know.
Oh,
Who knows?
my boss gets so mad. I'll be like, all right, I'm like, the client I went to, he's like, I don't know where you were at. I'm like, you have the history of where, and he's like, how can you not? I'm like, or he'll be like, hey, you remember you were here yesterday? I'm like, where's it at? And I'm like, yeah, again, I've been here 24 years. I've seen almost anytime I walk into a client that I haven't seen, and I'm like, and then I look at the history. I'm like, dude, they've been a client for like 5 years, especially one like that's by me, because I'm about a half hour away from my office. Like every now and then I'll walk into one that's like with 5 minutes and I'm like, this is an old machine. Like, how have I never been sent here before? And I can see the history, like other guys have been there. I'm like, that's really odd. But okay, so you're living in this house, you said, and you decide. Now I'm assuming
81 Marymount.
You what? I'm
81
assuming
Marymount. It was legendary back then. Yeah.
I'm assuming you weren't collecting at this time because
Well, No, but yes, because so I wasn't collecting vintage stuff, but that was 99, 2000, and that's when the Real American Hero collection came out. And I remember going to a
All right.
Toys R Us just randomly. I'm like, I'm gonna go see what's in Toys R Us. And I saw the Real American Hero collection. I remember the first thought was, well, the box art blows, and there's an Apache helicopter on it for no reason whatsoever because they don't have one, but okay. And I remember being like, well, the art sucks, but the figures look good. They're repaints, but they're like there were some washes on the figures. I remember I'm like, that's cool. So I bought the Hiss 3 and I bought the Locust, which is like the Dragonfly, which I still have over there. It's
I
right
had
there. That's
that.
the one I bought while I was living at Marymount. And I took those home and I remember putting them together in my room, and like some guys are over and they're like, what are you doing? Playing with toys? I'm like, yes, I'm putting together these toys. Leave me alone. And then so I started getting back into that stuff then. Yeah.
That Locust is one thing that not my kid's mother, but one of my ex-girlfriends. I think the only thing that she gave me that's worth, and like when I say worth anything, I mean anything she did for me was worth anything.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I got you. I got
um,
you.
like she got that for me. I wasn't even collecting GI Joe at the time. But I wanted that because it was the Dragonfly, different
Mhm.
color. So I
Yep.
do have that. And when you look at how much that thing is worth, I'm like, why did I open it?
Is it worth? I have one that's
if,
unopened
if I
too.
remember correctly, I thought I looked recently and they're worth a lot of
Oh
money.
wow, I don't really look very often, but
Someone
I
will.
also have one of
I
those
don't
Street
either.
Fighter ones.
Every now and then, I'll kind of be going through it and I'll be like, because you want to like, start picking up some stuff, you know,
Mhm.
that you're like, well, how much is this stuff worth? And you're like, well, let's just quickly see, and then you're just like, oh, wow, that's pricey there.
That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I once in a while I'll see some prices and I'll be like, what the hell? What happened there? But yeah. But yeah, that was part of like putting together stuff was my thing. So I picked up a lot of sealed stuff with the intention of eventually I'm going to open this and put it together. So I don't know if I'll still do it, but I mean, I got a couple. Most of the time I'll find like an open box but sealed contents, right? So I have two Cobra Bugs up there that are both open but sealed contents. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
like I'm going to eventually put at least one of them together. So
I've survived not having a bug, and it's not high on my priority to ever.
I know it's weird, but I love the thing. I love when I got as a kid, I was like, I remember thinking like, except for the clip for the submarine, the rest of it is pretty solid. And I remember thinking like, it's got this good feel to it, especially like the little suspension in the wheels. And I remember thinking like, this thing is like
I
really
don't think
well
I've
put
ever even
together.
like handled one.
Yeah, it's really well put together when you hold it. You're like, wow, this is pretty substantial. Yeah, yeah,
Now,
I
maybe
love
I
it.
felt different if I actually held, but there's enough stuff before I even get to that I would want.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That is again, because I think a lot of the stuff after you get past, let's say 80, 87, 88 for me,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you're like, well, I'm going to pick and choose stuff that I like
Yeah, for
because I'm
sure.
overspending on it because I'm just trying
Mm-hmm.
to add to the collection. And
Right,
I
right.
think like I'd rather invest in a warthog,
Yeah, for
something
sure. Yeah.
or whatever the other one was. The night rhino. Like I'd rather have something like that if I'm going to spend extra money on it. Considering all my money goes to classified.
Yeah, I know. That's where I'm at now. Like, I got all the vintage stuff that I pretty much want. The only thing I don't have is like a Goldhead Steel Brigade, but I have everything else.
I don't have any
So,
steel brigades.
what's that?
I don't have a steel. I don't even have a steel brigade.
Oh, you don't have any? I have my
Isn't it?
original. Well, me and my brother mailed away for them in '87. I still have both, and they're both version A's. So that's lucky. I have that, but I lost. I had the hat, the stupid hat with the plastic
Yeah,
brim. I don't know where the hell that went. I had it up to like at least I would say into my 20s or 30s. I don't know where that went.
I can
Somewhere.
remember being a kid, and I remember that, and I thought that it was the stupidest thing. I thought
Yeah.
it was stupid to want to have a GI Joe that was made like that. It's my file card. I just thought it was stupid.
Really
And now I
interesting.
think how stupid it was to not, or because God knows I had
Yeah,
flag
yeah.
points. All right.
Yeah.
If you're a person that has the aircraft carrier, you have 20 flag points right there. But you can imagine if you have the aircraft carrier, you probably have a lot more flag points because you might have been spoiled.
Yeah, I had it as a kid. My grandparents remember in Christmas 80, we didn't ask for the flag. I remember thinking I just wanted a hydrofoil and the Mauler. That was my two things I wanted for Christmas the most. And that night, Christmas night, my grandparents came over for dinner, and my dad went back outside with my grandpa, and then they came in with this giant wrapped box. I was like, "What is that?" And I looked at my brother, and we're like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, is that like the only thing that would justify the size was maybe a flag?" And then we opened it up, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Now, is that
And it
your
was
childhood
no,
one behind
no.
you? Okay.
After high school, man, we moved. My parents got separated, and my dad sold the house, and we were moving into an apartment. He's like, "It's all got to go," and he got a big steel dumpster, put it in the driveway, dropped it off, and everything went out. Terrordrome, Castle Grayskull, Defiant, Aircraft, all my Transformers, all my Sectors, all that stuff got thrown out. The only thing I managed to keep was I had a comic book long box, like a white one, full of it was filled with the figures. Except some of the ones were in the vehicles, so they got tossed. But and I for whatever reason, the Battlefield Robot Devastator, that little gray thing with the maroon rockets,
Yeah.
that got saved. My Mauler got saved, and my Rattler got saved. Oh, and randomly my Hiss 2 got saved. Everything else got tossed. So yeah,
Wow.
I have a few Action Masters, like Transformer ones, that made it, but there's not much else. Yeah.
Wow.
Nope,
Yeah,
not even sold. Yeah,
yeah,
just thrown
like
out. I remember
plastic.
watching it. I remember my dad from the attic window. I remember just seeing like the Terrordrome go out the window into the dumpster. Snake Mountain out the window into the dumpster. And I was
Did you
just like,
cry? I
I was
mean,
like 18, 19 at the time. So I'm like,
I
I'm too
still
cool
think
for toys. But I remember like my dad was like, no, like there's no arguing with my dad. Like I couldn't be like, can we save these? He would have told me to get the hell out of there. You know what I mean?
hey,
So I'm just like, I can't say anything. So I'm just like, well, I just got to eat it, I guess. So
Chris, how much is the mobile command center? Since it seems like because I've always wanted the mobile command center. I never had it. I regret not grabbing one when they were all on clearance because you could find them everywhere, but I wasn't collecting toys and I wasn't into GI Joe. I mean, I still had my old stuff, but I didn't care. The mobile command center, again, my grail is still the Defiant. I'm not spending four grand on one.
no, it's
The mobile
insane though.
command
Yeah.
center is another one that I really do want, but now it
That
worries
was
me.
great. I loved it. I had that too. I had one recently up till a couple years ago. I ended up selling it because I have another one. They re-released it in like
Yeah,
2002 or whatever.
and that might have been the
And
one I remember seeing. I just remember,
yeah,
and again, I don't really care. I just want one.
I have that one in the box still, not open.
Okay.
And my idea is like I'll put it together. It's not the original, but it won't be a lot of the older vintage ones, they'll start to discolor. At least one of the levels will be discolored. So like, they don't discolor evenly. So it is a little weird sometimes. But you gotta remember too, like there's like the Defiant, the Mobile Command Center has those like more delicate pieces that keep the
Yeah.
levels together when you open it. And over time that plastic starts to get brittle.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Okay,
scary.
so 300 isn't too crazy for that, I don't think.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, it's not cheap, but I mean,
No,
the bigger
it's not
vehicle.
cheap. But yeah, but 300, like when you said expensive, I thought you were talking like close to 1,000, if not more.
Oh no, yeah, you can get one.
Yeah,
pretty good.
yeah, you have a Defiant for me, yeah, but it's like $4,000. I'm not spending $4,000 right now on any toy. Well,
In my modern era of collecting, I did get a Defiant, but it was a Canadian one. It had Canadian stickers on it, and but it was missing so much stuff, and the booster was so discolored. It was like brown, and I'm like, I'm not gonna put this together. I'm not gonna find all the parts, so I ended up just selling that.
yeah, I like. I don't know. The Defiant is just one of those, and I can go get one right now. I could go up to Sergeant Red's. He has one. He has one complete with the box and everything.
Oh, nice.
But again, I don't.
That box is enormous.
Yeah, well, so it isn't the same size as the flag.
No, well, it's a different dimension, right? Different aspect ratio, kind
Is
of. The flag is longer, right?
The flag is
But like,
long.
and it's like horizontal. Like if you're looking at the art,
Yeah.
it sits like landscape. But the Defiant's more of like a portrait. So the way it stands normally just makes it so tall. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
But anyway, okay. So you have a party house. You said, I got to get out of this or else I'm going
Yeah.
to end up on the street.
Yeah, I'll be 40 years old, tending bar, partying, you know what I mean? One of those guys. And I didn't want to do that.
So you go to school and you said you went for
Mhm.
graphic design.
Yeah.
Now, is that something that you got into now or?
Yeah, like right out of so it was an interesting little I did a little side track. So I went to Bryan Stratton for graphic design. I went to University of Buffalo for my bachelor's. I got a communication design degree with a minor in photography. So I did that. And then while I was there, I was tending bar part-time. And I was also then when I left Bryan Stratton, they needed a Mac lab. They had a Mac lab for the graphic design program. And I really got into Macs at the time, the operating system and all that stuff. I was totally nerding out about computer stuff. So they needed a Mac lab administrator part-time. So I got a part-time job at my old school, managing the accounts on the server for the new students and everything. And then Apple wanted a campus rep for UB, and one of my teachers recommended me. So I was part-time campus rep, but they would send me equipment. I put on like gaming things, or I would set up stuff in the student union where people could look at Macs. And so I was doing like 3 part-time jobs while I was going to school full-time there.
Uh-oh, don't freeze. Don't freeze. It's really weird that he keeps freezing because he hasn't had any other issues. So, but I can see that he's frozen over here. As many of you might know, I keep the screen up here, so I always know if somebody's freezing or if I'm freezing more than anything.
All right, I'm back.
All right.
I don't know.
It's really weird.
Anyway,
I don't know if you heard me, but it's weird when you freeze because, like, you're not having any other issues. It's not like it looks like
it's like
all of a sudden
something's interfering. I feel like, but I don't know what.
Podsy says he said Mac, and all of a sudden,
yeah, maybe that's what it is. But yeah, so I was doing that, and then there's an Apple store locally that I got a job as a Genius. You know, the Geniuses at the bar.
yeah.
So I did that for a few. Yeah, so I did that for a few years. That was hilarious, like the stuff that we would do then. Pre-iPhone was really interesting. iPhone kind of changed everything. That's something I should have done. Is as far as money goes, we got free iPhones when they came out. Apple gave us all the employees free iPhone. But I was thinking at the time I should buy another iPhone and just keep it in the box, but I didn't. Now those things, sealed iPhone 1s, are going for like 10 grand easy. I'm like, what an idiot. I should have just done that. Yeah, it's stupid. So I did that for a while. And then after that, I did that for maybe 5 years. And then I got into, then I got a design job and then another design job. Then I worked at an agency. And then I started moving around. I left Buffalo. I went to California for a while. And then I went to, and I was a front-end developer actually in California. Did that for a while. Then I moved to Columbus, Ohio. I worked a few different, an agency. Then I worked for a retail company there doing art direction, like art-directed photo shoots for fashion, retail and stuff. And then I got into doing UX for them because they didn't have a UX designer for the website. So I started doing that too. Then I moved to Cleveland, which is area where I'm now, and I work from home, and I work as a UX. I'm a director of UX design for a education company. So that's what.
Okay. So as you're moving around, you're still collecting this whole time?
There are times where I'm collecting less, but little bits in there. There'd be a spurts at first where I'd collect a lot, and then there'd be a period of kind of a lull where I wouldn't. I think it really ramped up when I moved to Columbus, and I want to say 2014. I started getting really into collecting vintage stuff that I didn't have, and that's where I went crazy. That's probably when I started making more money than I ever made, and I had extra disposable income, and that's kind of what led me into collecting. Yeah. So
I hit Ohio.
Oh. Hey, basically how it worked was I was in California, and I had a great time in California. Like the weather was perfect. I lived like I could walk to Huntington Beach. I was like right on the beach. It was pretty cool. It was super expensive, but I got like the Disney resident pass, and I would just go to Disneyland to get something to eat and go on a ride and come back. Like they're planning their whole family vacations, and I'm the idiot just going by myself to grab something to eat and go on a ride and come home.
Man, You're
It
sitting
was
talking
crazy.
about like living that close to Huntington Beach, and I'm thinking of all the pro skaters, all the
Yeah,
the famous curves that I would see it, and I'm like, I hate you. Like I
it was fun. It was cool. Like, there's a lot of things I didn't like about it, really. I was dating a girl that lived in Vegas then too, so there was like I had to drive through the desert to see her or whatever. But it was an interesting time, and it was fun, but super expensive. And I was just like, man, I don't know if I can survive out here, like with the how expensive it is. So, and then I met my current girlfriend actually, who was living in Columbus, and that kind of was my tie. I ended up moving to Columbus to be with her, and we've been together ever since. And then we moved from there to Cleveland area. So I'm in Ohio due to strings, like tied to her.
so
But that wasn't otherwise I wouldn't be in Ohio. You
so
know what I mean?
so what I've said for years still stands that people don't move to Ohio, they end up in Ohio.
Yeah, yeah, that's
No one
exactly what it is.
chooses to move to Ohio. You just you end up there for whatever reason.
Yeah. And part of the reason we moved from Columbus to Cleveland is her parents are from this area, so it was closer to her family, but it's also closer to Buffalo. So instead of a 5.5 hour drive to Buffalo from Columbus, it's a 3 hour drive from here. So it's a much
Is
more
it
doable
really?
drive. Yeah. So I go home every 4 to 6 weeks, unless it's like real dead of winter. I probably won't
Yeah.
go January,
Oh my
February, but
goodness.
dude, I got trapped in Buffalo
I
on
can't even
Thanksgiving.
imagine.
I was like, I don't think I'm ever gonna get out of here. I had to do those things where I have to check the map for the weather I had to check Buffalo, I had to check like Fredonia area near Pennsylvania, Erie, Pennsylvania, Ohio. I had to check the whole route to see if I had a clearing because there was like snowstorms along the whole Lake Erie. And I had to just be like, okay, if I leave right now, I can make it without getting stuck in a storm. I have to go right now. And it was like 6 a.m. Gotta go. And it was already 2 days past when I was going to go home. And if I didn't do that, I would have been trapped for about 2 weeks. That's how bad the snow was.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
time you see like Buffalo, you're just like,
Yeah.
you guys.
It's crazy.
It's just that belt that you guys are on, or
Yep.
the
That's what
people
it
that live.
is.
I guess you're
Yep.
not
Snow
on
belt.
like. And for
Yeah.
us, like I fully believe that the Great Lakes, where we're at in Michigan, I remember as a kid we'd have snow drifts up to the top of the school. Now, I'm not saying the snow was that high, but it drifted up that high. We get
Hmm.
nothing. Like we get six
Yeah.
inches of snow in like
It's
one
not
day
as,
and then it melts.
yeah.
It doesn't
It,
last. But I see Grand Rapids, I see up north, I see Ohio behind, like below us. And you're watching the Weather Channel and you're seeing everyone that's hammered, and I'm looking
mhm.
out the window going, "Yeah, I can go
Yeah.
skateboard right now."
Yeah, here, this part of Cleveland, we're on the west side, so you don't get the lake effect snow really on this side. If I was on the east side of Cleveland, you would get some of that there.
Yeah,
But even in Buffalo, it's not as consistent as it was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it would snow all the time, and you'd have snow on the ground pretty much all winter, right?
yeah.
From Thanksgiving to March, right? But now what happens is they get huge blasts that lasts like a couple weeks and then it all melts. And then you might get a blast a few weeks later. It's not like consistent. It's like all at once or nothing. It's kind of weird,
We'll get
you
like an
know.
8 inch, like hit with 8 inches of snow, and then 2 days later, it's like 50 degrees and everything's
Yeah.
melted.
Yep. And that's the problem with Lake Erie is if it doesn't stay cold enough long enough, the lake won't freeze over. And if the lake doesn't freeze over, you get all that lake effect snow from the evaporating moisture. And that comes inland and dumps on the south towns, which is where East Aurora is,
Yeah,
in Orchard Park. So East Aurora borders Orchard Park, and that's where the Bill Stadium is.
which I'll say, like as a kid, I think it would have sucked. As an adult, I'm like, okay, I don't need that much snow. I don't snowboard anymore. Uh,
Hmm.
if we would have had the skate park that I have now, I would have hardly ever snowboarded because I snowboarded because I couldn't skateboard. Or
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. Right.
we still went out and skated. It was awful because it was super cool, but we didn't care as kids. Like we were stupid. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. I remember I BMX'd. I had a BMX, my Stu Thompson Huffy. I used to BMX in the trails and like I was like a pro.
riding hell
We had
track,
a little bit of skateboard. I had a Vision skateboard. I think I had the Psycho stick or
the
whatever. I
cycle
had
stick.
that. Yeah, I had that thing. Yeah, that was
At
fun.
least it wasn't a gator.
No, that guy like killed people, right?
We killed one person, not people.
One person.
But
Yeah, yeah,
one person is enough. It's still one more than I have.
Yeah, that guy went a little. That guy should have had a psycho stick.
That's very true. So as you're moving around, you're still collecting. Now, this is what I want to ask. Like, do you like during all this time, are you only collecting GI Joe, or do you collect other things?
I've collected some other things more. Well, in the more since 2014, I've collected a few other things. Like I got some. I love Starcom as a kid, so I got a bunch of
Okay.
Starcom stuff. I have Battle Beasts. I was collecting some Battle Beasts. I had them. We had them all as a kid. I'm so bummed, like how expensive those things are now. So, but I got some Battle Beasts. I got like the little play sets for the Battle Beasts. You know, like the shark and the wood beetle. I got those. But and I got Motu Origins. I got into that for a little bit. You know,
I
I've
did
got some
too.
of the Maddie Collector He-Man stuff from
Okay.
that like that era. Some of the Filmation stuff that Super 7 did, but not like full lines. I would just pick and choose. But now
Okay.
it got to the point with classified where I'm buying like tons of classified. So I'm just like, you know what? I don't have space. I have a storage unit because I ran out of space here. So I'm just like, I'm just classified, and I'll
Okay.
pick up like Marvel Legends or anything to support the classified. If I'm thinking about photography and I'm thinking like I want to do a city street scene, I need civilians, I'll buy the movie Marvel Legends figures that look like civilians that can be in the
Okay.
background. You know, so mostly anything I buy that's not classified is supporting classified in some way, you know.
All right.
So I have some Mythic Legions and stuff, but most of it is
Well, wait.
classified.
Well, how do the knights support the?
Well, it's funny you asked that. Well, like if you get into the
You
cartoon
can.
lore, I
You're
can I
right.
can do that all day. Like I've got like so I built a whole Arena of Sport diorama that I haven't shot yet, and I picked up one of the big tall barbarian looking Mythic Legions figures that's like I don't know how many inches tall, like 8-9 inches tall,
Yeah.
but he's going to be my classified version of Raymar, and I'm going to do a Raymar versus Duke scene with a like an updated classified version of Raymar. You know, we've got a helmet on, and I have the big columns and everything that are falling down in the arena.
That is
I got all
awesome.
that stuff. So
And nobody go and do that now.
yeah.
Although
Oh, it's okay.
I might have a
It's
Super 7 one coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I did get the Super 7 O-ring one though. I did get that. That's pretty fun. But
I have a
but yeah,
review
so I
coming
want
out
to
tomorrow.
do like I like mixing in mythology to stuff too, because to me it's like anything is on the table. I just want to have fun with it. I don't really and like I can do multiple as a kid, I knew that Sunbow was its own universe and the comics were its own universe. And I was okay with that. You know what I mean? I'm not to me, I'm like, I get two versions of the thing I love instead of one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like that
I
idea. Yeah.
I enjoy now when I do photography, or again, I use that term loosely, but I like grabbing something from Mythic Legions that I have that's bigger. And like I
Mhm.
did a whole shoot with the BBTS exclusive with that Maximum Spider-Man, uh, and others, Spider-Man and like Marvel Legends fighting him, and I'm like, this works out. He's big, he's bulky,
Mhm.
he doesn't have to scale with them, because he's
Right.
built.
Yeah.
I think they're built off more of a 7-inch scale than 6, but it doesn't matter because he's huge. So he's just this big guy, fighting
Mhm.
these guys, and I find that fun now. Like I
Yeah. Yeah. Like
see,
it's like your imagination is the limit. Whatever you
yeah,
can imagine, you can do, and that's what's fun to me. Like I used to. There was a period of time where I had to be very strict. My head canon was very strict, but after a while, I'm like, I'm just limiting myself. Like I could just have fun with this. No one, who cares? Like I'm just gonna have fun with it. So that's what I do. Oh yeah, and the ghosts. That's why Vegeta is a good point. They had that ghosts episode. So
yeah.
like with the Centurion and the World War I pilot. So I love all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah, there's I had fun. I had fun taking the AWOC figures, Animal Wars of the Kingdom, and
Mm-hmm.
have them fighting like Storm Shadow and Snake, like
Yeah.
that, because they're built, they're taller, which is perfectly fine because
Yeah, they're
They're
animal morphed
yeah.
mutants or whatever.
So
Yeah, and there
to
was
me,
that
like,
Sunbow episode where Mindbender turned those troopers into animals, right? Like so, like
yeah,
there's you can just like make that connection if you want to, or you don't have to. You can
yeah.
do whatever
It's
you
just
want.
yeah, it's just a set of pictures that you're doing.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
working them into like a diorama and doing a whole series on it. But
Sure.
I I, I wasn't that person before, but I'm becoming, and I'm enjoying it. That's what's actually cool about it. It's
That's
like
the same. Yeah,
this
I went
work.
through that. Yeah, exactly. Like I was very like I'm like it has to be like within the existing canon, or but then I was like, you know what? Why though? Like, why? 'Cause it's like I'm the one calling the shots here. I don't have to do that. I can do
Yeah,
whatever I want. So, yeah. Oh,
the
Skydrow's here. What's up, man?
Skywalker jumped in here saying it's time to battle.
Yeah, Skydrow.
Um,
Yeah, so yeah, that's what's fun about all this stuff and like some of the stuff I'm going to be doing in the future, like with Plastic Battles photography and stuff. I'm going to take a different tact with the whole tone of voice of it. I'm going to try a little something I've been working on that's like a completely different kind of like a take on it. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds.
uh,
But it's anything's open. Like anything I want to do, I can do, and there's no guardrails really.
and so quickly, please hit that like button, subscribe button to me if you haven't. But in the description, you will see a link to Paul's Instagram, which is amazing. You don't notice it until I go and look for pictures, and I'm like, these are awesome. In
Oh,
his
thanks,
in his YouTube, which he said he's just going to start doing stuff, and like you said,
man.
you dropped a video talking about um old footage or
Old
old
toy photography,
photography.
yeah,
Yeah,
and these with Skydrow. Skydrow's in the first
yeah.
episode, yeah. Yeah, we talk
That's what
about,
made me
like,
think of,
awesome photos like
like,
this.
again, I think that's gonna be I'm gonna go now. I gotta go watch that. Not tonight because I gotta work in the
It's a long
morning.
one. It's an hour plus, but it's worth it,
Yeah,
I
well,
think.
again, have you watched my stuff before? I can't complain when anyone says like other than 3-star draw. But I don't know, somehow you draw your stuff out like I'm like, hey, I did a video, it was like 30 minutes long, and then I see 3-star. I'm like, yours is 45 minutes. What the fuck did you do?
It's easy to go longer, like, originally for
It
these
is.
episodes I'm working on, I'm like, "I'm gonna try to keep them to 30, 40 minutes," and then it just I can't, because you get into talking and you go on
Yeah.
tangents, and it's all organic, right? You don't wanna be so rigid that you can't go off into different directions, so that's
That's exactly it. Like with
Mhm,
this show was like I think an hour and a half to start, then like 2 hours. Then it was like,
mhm.
all right, and then I moved it. It was at 10, so I was like, I will be done by midnight. I can't go over. Once I started going over that, I said, let's move it to 9. It worked for most people, and then I still have. I had a episode with Baldy. We went till after 1, and I'm like, how like Baldy, I talk to you every single Tuesday now on that show, yet somehow we went for 4 fucking hours. And I'm talking to you like every single day, like in our group chat, and
Yeah, you guys are funny. I check out some of your, what's it, Circle of Jerks episodes and
circle
stuff.
of
It's
truth.
funny. It's
It's
funny. Yeah,
fun. Like
Baldilocks is hilarious. That dude cracks me up a lot.
he's
He's funny.
he doesn't care. That's what makes him so
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
And again, the whole group of people, but he's just like he's laughing at his own jokes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He thinks he's hilarious, whether he is or not.
You guys got a good rapport. Like, you got a very different personalities that all kinda mix together. It's
Yeah.
fun, you know? That's
And
what makes
again,
it
I
cool.
think so far it's worked out, and I don't think people are tuning in to like hear the hard hitting toy news. Like if we get to it, we get to it. If we don't, I think people are just gonna be laughing their ass off. um, Skywalker Walker saying, "Did you ask him? Did you ask him about the in person toy photography gallery?"
I think what he's referencing, I did a gallery show, maybe, I think that's what he's talking about, but it would have been like 2020, because I remember it
Oh,
was right around like the whole shutdown of the pandemic. It was like right before that, because I remember um we did like a gallery show. There was like a theme of like pop culture or something, and it was put on in this little space in Cleveland here. And so I had a whole like wall of like my toy photography up there, and it was really cool. But I remember like right at the tail end of the show, it was up for a couple weeks or something. Um, that's when everything shut down. I remember like having to go there to get my artwork. And I remember like the whole building was like, nobody was in the offices, and people wearing masks, and it was just like a surreal time. And I was like, oh, this is so weird, you know. So, but yeah, it was right around 2020. I did a show.
My
Yeah, it was
my
pretty cool.
daughter was in it was her senior year in college, my oldest, and she had a gallery for her photography and everything.
Oh, cool,
And we
nice.
went there, and I believe hers was like the last one, or like whoever was doing it then was either the last or like the second, because then all of a sudden everything shut down.
Mm-hmm. It's
And I
weird. It was so
remember
weird.
arguing with her mom, my ex, and I'm like, dude, they're shutting everything down. We didn't know how things. I'm like, I can leave work right now and go pick her up. Go get my car. And we
Mm-hmm.
kind of went back and forth. And finally she's like, yeah, okay, just go pick her up. And then on the way there, my ex calls me and she's like, yeah, they just announced they're sending everyone home and they need to be out by this weekend.
That's crazy.
And you're talking about like, well, it's one thing for me to drive 2.5 hours to pick her up, pack everything up, pack stuff up in her car and drive. There's people that they're from other countries, other
Mm-hmm.
states. Like what?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you're kicking them out of the dorms. Like
Yeah.
where the hell are they gonna go? Like
Yeah.
it
There
was
wasn't a
weird.
lot of like thought put around that kind of thing. It's like maybe we got to
No,
give people a little more warning so they can prepare for such things, you know?
yeah, it was nuts. But
Yeah.
when you brought up the gallery, I remember, and I'm glad she at least got to do it. But then she was
Yeah, it's a cool
disappointed.
experience. Yeah, like if she did that, like it's a fun experience to do something like that, you know? It,
Yeah,
it's
and she was
like
disappointed
I would
because
love to do another one, you know, myself. You know, so maybe one day we'll
yeah,
see what
she didn't
happens.
get to graduate. Like she graduated, but she didn't get to
She
have
didn't do the
commencement,
ceremony?
ceremony.
Oh,
Which to me, I
sucks.
was like, thank you, because
Yeah,
I already
right.
sat
That's
through
funny.
your
That you're like, oh,
high
that's
school one.
terrible, and you're like, yes, secretly, yes.
I
Oh,
sat
I'm
through
so
her high
sorry.
school one, and it was 3 hours of my time I'll never get back.
That's
Love
so
you,
funny.
Emily, but
That's hilarious. I actually like I remember going to my graduation ceremony from UB, and I was like thinking like I just want it to be over kind of a thing. So it wasn't, you know, it was what it was. But I was
my
older then. I think I was 29 when I graduated college because I didn't go back till I was 25, you know. So
oof.
yeah.
My high school one was 3 hours long. We had 700 students graduating, and the only exciting thing, and I truly do mean this, the only exciting thing was when I did a backflip on stage,
Oh,
walking.
sh-
So like they announced my name, I walk, backflip, place went nuts because I'd been telling people
oh
all
my
year
god,
that
that's
I was
funny.
going to do it. The day I got the cap and gown in school, I was doing it in the hallway just
You're
to see
practicing?
because there was
Yeah,
wind
yeah,
drag, right? With
yeah.
that. So I, and this was, and the coolest thing, my dad ordered the cap. It
Uh-huh.
was too small. So it literally just suctioned to my head.
Oh, so when you
So
did the
it
flip, it
didn't
didn't come
come
off?
off. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And every time that I had done one outside, I actually just
Mhm.
drove by where we had our commencements yesterday for work. I just like, hey, I was doing a backflip out here on the tassel always flipped over, but this time it didn't. But I was walking, I do it, place goes nuts. I have it on film. I have it on film. I got to get it converted. Shake the guy's hand, and they waited about 90 seconds because they couldn't get everyone. Like they tried saying other names, and they had to
Mhm.
calm everyone. But it was like the boringest 3 hours, other than my
Oh, yeah.
daughter's.
Yeah,
It was so boring.
I don't have kids, so I choose not to do that, but more power to anybody that does, because I don't know how I could sit through that stuff. I wouldn't be
At
able
least
to.
now you have like your Bluetooth that you can
Mm,
listen to music, watch
right,
YouTube.
that's true. Yeah, you're
Like
like,
I
"Yeah,
don't care
I
about
was."
everyone else. Like you're there for like seriously the 2 minutes you see your kid, unless if
Mhm.
they're doing a speech or something. Like and then
Right,
all the
right,
other kids
that's
that
true.
all the other kids like when my son graduated and they're talking about like this is the last time we're gonna like shut up, no one cares. Like I wasn't sentimental. Like last day of school, like you see the girls and people crying, and like you're
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
see them like later on tonight. It's
I
not
know.
like you're never gonna see them again. Right?
Yeah, I know, it's so funny.
And that was before we knew everyone was going to have Facebook and you could see them every single day if you wanted.
Right. Yeah. Different time. Like we remember not pre-social media, pre-internet. We just had it was a different world. I didn't even know what was going on a block over, let alone on the other side of the world. Now I get everything instantly.
And that's why I love when I do these shows and I talk to people from other countries, and I'm not talking about Canada, but like Australia and New Zealand, because their experience with toys and G.I. Joe or whatever Star Wars is completely different than ours.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we heard Action Force, but most of us didn't know what it was. We didn't know that Argentina named their figures differently than what we had.
Yeah, I didn't know about that till I was an adult. I didn't realize any of that was happening.
And that's why I don't have a connect. Like there's some people that want to collect all that stuff, and I'm like, I have no connection to it. I love the fact that Classified is like, hey, you know what? We're going to start throwing in these Action Force figures.
Yeah,
I think it's awesome because you're creating more lore for the Classified. But I don't need a Glenda O-ring. Like there's nothing in my head canon that she had any. Now, am I saying I don't want one? No, I'd love to have one.
Yeah,
not for the price that you're going to pay.
Oh my God, good luck buying one. Yeah,
I buy a Warthog. And a mobile command center.
Yeah,
but I think like, so to me it doesn't that doesn't really register because we didn't know. We didn't know. And
I mean, I did once I saw the European Tiger Force stuff. I did end up getting all of it, but it was just because it was so cool. I couldn't resist. So I have that, but that was just because it was something new. It was old and new at the same time. And it was before Classified, right? So there really wasn't much to collect. So new to me, I'm like, this is vintage, but it's new to me. So I'm going to try to pick it up. And I was lucky enough to get some,
Woody Triple Juice saying, look at it this way. Look at it this way. Bill, I'm currently opening 100 new figures I just got.
Oh my God. Holy crap.
Woody's crazy.
100? Woody has been full of packaging.
Woody bought, I think, 77 Iron Grenadiers and
how many?
I think 77 Iron Grenadiers
of the Classified ones.
Yes, and then I think 33 Iron Grenadier bats.
Jeez. So I think I have close to 20 of each, but that's way above what I got. Yeah, that's crazy. 77. Oh my God.
Matthew, that's what I'm saying. I don't care if she was Action Force, where she was from. I don't like.
Oh, it was Heroicos or whatever. Commandos, Heroicos or whatever. That's what
Matthew loves to correct people.
Hey, that's what he's here for. He's the moderator.
Yeah,
he's got to keep people in line.
Him and Toy Optics. No one's ever seen them in the same place together.
Maybe they're the same guy.
But okay, so this is exactly what I want to say. Because just because they're foreign doesn't make them Action Force. So until recently, I thought that everyone that got G.I. Joe outside of the US or Canada, I thought they were all Action Force. That's why I was shocked to find out when I was talking to some of the Australian guys that they're like, no, like we had G.I. Joe, Action Force was over here.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. Oh, yeah, like even these catalogs from 1989 these are from the Netherlands and Belgium. They're called G.I. Joe. You know what I mean?
See, that's cool.
Yeah.
So Woody has 100 Iron Grenadiers and 77 IG bats. Oh,
100.
Yeah, check out Woody Triple Two's YouTube and when he does.
All right, I'll check him out.
Yeah,
Woody
when he does.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you a link if you can't find it.
Yeah.
He does. Is it the basement? I forget what, but he goes like he is the king of army building.
Damn. Yeah, I have a lot of army builds, but I'm not even approaching that with Classified.
No,
I think I might have close to 100, like 86, like O-ring bats and vipers, but and maybe snow serpents. But that was like over years of picking them up.
Yeah, the basement. That's what it's called. And Woody has kids too. Two daughters, which cost a lot of money.
That's crazy.
Wow! Look at this, 2,500 figures.
Damn, I got a spreadsheet for mine, but I'm not close to 2,500.
but those are all classified or six. He sold
Yeah.
off all his whole 4-inch line or 3.75. The
I
1/8
wonder what
line.
mine's up to. Like, because I'm an idiot. Because I'll buy like 5 or 6 of named characters too. Because I'm like, well, I might want to make customs later, So, I'll buy them now with the $25. I don't 5 years from now, I don't have to pay twice as much for them if I want to make a custom, So I'm like always doing that, But I wonder,
And again, if
probably
you
about
have
half that.
if you have the money, then I say spend whatever. This is what I hate.
13, 15, that's my count. And that's including 3 packs and 2 packs that I'm only counting as one.
You have what?
So 13, 19 is my total.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's right.
yeah. Woody at 2,500 is crazy. 13, and you're not even counting in like the 3 packs and the 2 packs. You said
They're counting as one. Yeah, I'm just counting them as like one. Yeah.
so. Yeah, you're approaching what, like 1,500 figures.
Yeah, but that's like I said, like an idiot. Like I'm like, oh, retro stalker. I got 6 of him. Because I'm like, oh, if I take the camo off of him and put a red beret on him, now I've got Jammer. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm always thinking about.
So Stormtrooper and clones, I have over 100 each group. In Black Series or Vintage. See, to me, like I don't care what people. I hate when people are like, that's why none of us can buy it. No, listen, it's their money. You can buy whatever you want. I don't care
Yeah.
how much you spend on it. All right. I
Yeah.
don't care what you do. You have the money as long as there's a roof over your head. You're feeding your family. You're taking right. I don't care.
Yes, exactly.
I'm more
As long as you
interested
take
in.
care, yeah,
I'm
your
more interested in
responsibilities.
how do you have the room to display? That's what I want to see. All right. I
Right.
don't care like because when I do like the Amazon links,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's buying what, but I can see what's being bought.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if someone, like if someone messages me and they're like, hey, send me a link for this, I'll know what you bought because you specifically asked me.
Yeah.
So don't buy like an adult toy because I'll know you're buying it. But I will see like someone buys like 10 stingers. I saw a few people buy 5 stingers, and I'm just like, if you have 10 stingers, how many vamps do you have, and how many
right.
rams
Yeah.
do you like? How do you display it? Like, how do you have the room? I'm interested in seeing the space that you have because that is what interests me. I don't really care, again, like I don't. It's your money, man. We're adults.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Like, if you work hard and you pay all your bills and you're responsible, then however you spend your play money, if you want to call it that, is your business, right? And I don't have Harleys, I don't have Ski-Doos, I don't have extra cars. Like all my money just goes to this stuff, photography equipment, which is not cheap, but for display, for me, like 95% of it's O-ring stuff. Like I have this little classified section up here with the Dragonfly and those dudes, but everything else is like either in the basement where I have my like studio set up for photography, or it's in Army. I have bins over here for Army building that are open, and then some other open figures over here that are in bins. And then my storage unit is like still all the box stuff. It's all organized in my storage unit, boxed by like in numbered order,
I was we had a meeting today because they're bringing on Xerox. So they brought Xerox in, and the guy, I don't think he has kids, but he's talking. He has snowmobiles, and he's like, "Do any of you guys?" And then was like, "Oh, you guys all married?" And some of the guys kind of laugh because they are. And during the time, like he's kind of talking about like, I used to buy snowmobiles like one a year, or whatever, and then turn around and sell them, but it's not really worth it. He's in the Boston area. He's like, we're not really getting that much, but he's going on and like he's talking about like the toy, like the stuff that he has, like the motorcycles, and then he's talking to the other Xerox guy about stuff, and he's like, "What you guys do?" And like, "No, I don't." And one guy's like, "Oh, I get it." And I'm thinking, I buy toys and I buy skateboards. But you don't even want to get into how much you spend. Now it's not near a snowmobile. But he's also buying, like he said, yeah, I bought like 2 and I made 1,000 off of the one right away because there was only so many of them made, or maybe he said 5,000. He made a big chunk. He goes, I didn't even pick it up. He goes, I went with the guy.
Oh, that's funny.
And just transferred the title and he
Right.
paid for it and just gave me the rest.
That's
You
hilarious.
know, and I'm just sitting here like, yeah, I buy toys. Okay. I buy toys, I buy skateboards. Um,
Hey, keep it simple, you know?
exactly. But again, it's all the joy. It's again, what
Yeah.
brings you joy? You know,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Everyone's gonna be a little bit different, right? You have a different
yeah,
upbringing or whatever, and over the course of growing up, you fell in love with different things, so that's kinda how it goes, you know?
and I'm like, I'm not a thrill seeker. You know,
Yeah, me
I
either.
listened
Yeah.
to Tommy Guerrero, an old pro skater, and
Yeah, I
I
know.
was listening to a video or an interview, and he goes, "I'm not a thrill seeker." He goes, "Everyone I talk to people and like, oh, you like skydived?" He's like, "I've never surfed in my life,"
Mhm.
and they're like. And they're like, "Do you sky like?" He's like, "I don't like roller coasters or anything." I'm like, "But you're a thrill seeker. You skateboard." He's like, "No, I just like skateboarding.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah,
not
that's it.
like that's just like some of the stuff you do is a thrill, but he goes, that's not why that's not why I got into skateboarding for thrill seeking. That's just kind of a byproduct of it. I don't
Mhm.
care about any of that stuff." I'm like,
Yeah.
that's exactly it was put in a way that I was like, that's exactly how I feel. I don't
Mhm.
My dad used to always say, "Why would I jump out of a perfectly good airplane?" And I
Right,
was like,
yeah.
that
Right,
is
right.
I'm with you. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I have no reason to jump out of a perfectly good airplane.
Bonus Brigade, yeah. I love that documentary, the Bonus Brigade one. Actually, there's a couple of them. I like those ones, those are
I
cool.
think I know which one you're talking. There's one from the past few years that's really good.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I guess you get to listen to Stacy Peralta talk about how he basically invented skateboarding. Oh
Yeah,
god.
I know there's a little of that in there. I just
Oh,
enjoy the little
hearing
time travel back to that era
yeah,
because and I remember, like, when they're talking about, like, the Animal Chin videos and stuff, and
yep,
I'm like, "Oh, I remember that," 'cause my neighbor 2 doors down, had those skate VHS tapes, and they were, like, really into it in this tiny
yep.
little East Aurora town where no one knew how to skateboard. It was hilarious,
And
you
Animal
know?
Chin was like it was made to be it's made into a movie.
Mhm,
Not a good
mhm.
movie, but as a
Oh,
kid
yeah, that's what was
that had a
interesting about it.
skateboard, it was really cool. And then when
It
you hear
felt
about
really like you were in on something that no one else knew about,
yeah,
it was such a cool feeling, you know?
and I think what's cool about like that, like in the documentary, they're like that chin ramp was secretly built. They was there for like 3 days, and then when the guy found out it was on his property, he made us tear it down. He gave us like 1 day after he found out, or like, and that was it. Then it was gone.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
But yeah, I love when I talk. There's more people than I would have thought in this community that either used to skateboard or
Mhm.
still do skateboard or in the punk rock. That one really shocks me because I'll mention something and next thing I know, people are like, and I mean, talking about like really like the lower level known punk bands. And I'm like, damn, some of these people really know some of this stuff. And
That's cool.
it's not,
Yeah.
it's not, it shouldn't be that shocking because again, it's something that is again, I know everyone like now no one cares. Oh, so what you collect? And it's like, yeah, but it wasn't like that 20,
Mhm.
30 years ago.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you're into punk rock or you're into skateboarding, your friends aren't going, oh, and you collect toys too. It's like, dude, we're all fucking skateboarders.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
already at the
Yeah.
bottom of the barrel. All right. Like,
Yeah. You're already in that. It doesn't matter. What other quirks you have doesn't override the main thing that everyone's proud of,
exactly.
you know? So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that skateboarding was not cool, all the nerdy stuff was not cool, but
And
you're in that group.
I love that the stuff that we do is accepted.
Yeah.
Skateboarding is accepted now. Like,
Yep.
girls don't look at you and go, "Ugh, you ride a skateboard?"
Do you
I mean,
think it loses something though when it
I
is
don't.
accepted? You don't?
I
Okay.
I don't because it does, and I've listened to a lot of people say that. They're like, "It's in the
Mhm.
Olympics, not my skate." Well, then don't
Yeah,
watch it.
right. Yeah, because there is that whole thing, even with, like, punk rock and other stuff, when it like, hip hop was a big deal, right? In the '80s and '90s, early '90s, it was pretty underground, like, they didn't play
Yep.
it on the radio, that was a big thing, and a lot of lyrics, "We're not gonna get played on the radio," and then by the mid, late '90s, it was all you heard on the radio. And then it was like that mainstream kind of crossover where it lost that underground vibe and it became more of like just you're in TV commercials and stuff, you know?
See,
So it's interesting.
what's kind of crazy is like when you look at like skate videos, even today,
Mhm.
skate now you'll see Instagram videos, but like an actual video that a team puts out or a shoe company, you don't see stuff in skate parks or in the X Games. All the stuff they do is either on the streets, unless if
Mhm.
it's a vert ramp. I mean, obviously, if it's ramps, it has to be, a backyard ramp or whatever. But all the street stuff is still it's still done in the streets. They don't
Mhm.
post footage of stuff that they've done
Mhm.
in a skate park because that's made so they can practice. For me, I'm like, kids don't even realize how good they had it because we got kicked out of everywhere we went, and probably for good reason. Most of the places, to be honest. Um, but now you have a skate park, and I know a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, that's not even real skateboarding." It's like, all right, but
Man, you would have
this
killed
is
to have that back then just to be able to go
oh, dude,
somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
hell yeah, like,
Yeah.
it, but like when I hear people say like, "Oh, the Olympics ruined it," why? Or Nike
Yeah.
getting into it. Nike's put so much money into skateboarding.
Yeah.
All right, so much money, and I
Yep.
understand people don't want the corporate, but it's like, God forbid that these people that are professional skateboarders actually make money where they don't have to
That's
work a side
yeah.
job.
That's the whole thing. There's a
Why would
lot of tragic stories with, older skateboarders who, I mean, they
there's
just didn't. Yeah.
because there's a lot of guys now that made like they didn't have money or they came in after my time
Mhm.
and they sat down. They'll pull skaters aside and said, "You need you first off, you're paying Uncle Sam, just so you know.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to,
Mhm.
but you're also gonna be this isn't gonna last forever. Not everyone is
Right.
Tony Hawk,
Yep.
Steve Caballero.
Yep.
Like not everyone can do this forever.
Yeah. So it's like
And
being an athlete, you know, you can only do it. You have a window of time and where you're going to make your money. And if you blow it, that
yeah,
window closes and there's no more money, you know?
and
Yeah.
I was watching this interview, and they were talking to one of the owners of Primitive Skateboards. Now, the
Oh
other
yeah,
owner of
primitive. Yeah.
Primitive Skateboards is Paul Rodriguez.
Mhm.
Paul Rodriguez's dad is Paul Rodriguez, the comedian.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
Paul Rodriguez is part owner of Primitive,
That's cool.
and and they had their guest on. He's one of the owners, but I don't think he's a skateboarder, or he's not like I think he might be a filmographer or whatever. But he was telling a story, and he goes, "So we brought this guy in, and we wanted to turn him pro, and I gave him a contract." And he's like, "We want to give you a contract, whatever." He didn't say how long it was for. Maybe he did. I don't remember. And he said the guy he grabbed a pen and went to sign. He goes, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm going to sign it." He goes, "You haven't even read it."
Oh,
And he
yeah.
goes, "Well, I don't
Right.
need to." And he goes, "No, no, 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 no." He goes, "Don't you sign anything." He said, Go talk to your agent." He's, "I don't have an agent." He's like, "Go find a lawyer. Go over
Right.
this." He goes, "You don't even know what I put into that."
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, he's like, "This would have been better for me because I could have put whatever and this guy screwed." But I'm like,
Mhm.
"No, no, 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 no. Read that over. Take it to your parents. Have your parents, you know, talk to their lawyer." He's like, "There's somebody that you can talk to. You never sign something before
Mhm.
you read over it and think about it a little bit."
Well, thankfully, that guy was like a stand-up dude to do
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of these guys that are like they've invested and I see some of them that you don't even realize they were skateboarders because
Right.
they're in that, and it's awesome. But like for me, I don't care that it's in the Olympics. I think it's awesome.
Hey, it isn't breakdancing. Like, what's her name? What was the name of that one from Australia? What was her
Oh
name?
God, what was the name? Someone will tell me.
Lasertron or something? I don't remember. Something weird like that,
So
but
bad.
oh my god, that was probably the funniest thing. Oh my god, it was so that memed out of control. That was insane. That was absolutely insane.
And she killed it.
Ray
Ray
gun.
gun. There it is. Ray gun. We got
Lasertron. I was close. Lasertron ray gun. Yeah. Yeah, that's so funny.
But no, like with punk rock, like I think there is something when you change your style to be put on the radio.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. But like Rancid, they were on the radio. They didn't change their style. That someone put them on. They did some same with the Boss Tones.
What about, how do you feel about the Sex Pistols?
I've never been a big Sex Pistols fan.
Okay, because a lot of my punk friends, they cannot. They're like, that's all bullshit right there.
I'm not
You
a
know what I
big
mean?
fan of those that I'm not a big fan of like the early punk
Mhm.
stuff. Like I'm not a big
Okay.
fan of the Ramones,
Oh, interesting.
the
Okay.
Sex Pistols. I
Okay.
love Bad Religion, the Circle
Bad
Jerks.
Religion's good.
So
Yeah.
like they came out of that, but that's the type of style. Again, I'm not even trying to say that those I don't know if the Sex Pistols were really that influential.
I'm just curious
to-
because like I they get so much hate from the friends that I know. So I was just curious to see what you thought. I don't care either way, you know, but I was just curious. Yeah, there it is. Corporate made punk. That's what I
Yeah.
hear. That's all what I always hear from that. Yeah, exactly.
Again, they weren't really good. But
Mhm.
these bands now, a lot of them because they've written songs for other people. They've won Grammys.
Right. Yeah.
And not every punk band is going to be
Mhm.
rich, but a lot of them
Oh,
are
no.
are making good money. It's what they can do. And as a kid, you're like, yeah, you know what? Don't ever sell out. But as an adult, you're like,
I
good
know.
for you.
It's a tough thing. You don't want to sell out, but you have to live. Like you need
Yeah.
money to live. So like there's like a line there. Like do you want to live poor your entire life or do you want to actually own a home and have a life? I don't know. It's a tough one.
All right. So
Stay legit but yet make a living, you know?
Quip is asking, Boss Tones were ska. Are they considered punk? Yeah,
Mm.
ska is punk.
My
Now, I'm
buddy
not a big fan
Steve,
of ska, but the Boss Tones are like, yeah, they are.
I
They
never
are.
liked the Boss Tones, but probably because my buddy Steve in high school used to pick me up to take me to school in his Hyundai Excel. You know, remember those little hatchbacks? His
Yes, I
dad's Hyundai Excel. It was like a stick shift and everything. And he'd pick me up and he would blare the Boss Tones on his tape deck on the way to school every morning for like 2 years straight. Just Boss Tones, Boss Tones. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I can't listen to this
I
anymore.
I did not like the Boss Tones growing up. I didn't
Mhm.
like ska. As I grew up and got older, I started to like some ska, but the more I listened to the Boss Tones, I was like, they're just really good. They were just a really good band.
Mhm.
They had one guy that just came out and danced. He didn't play any instruments. He
Oh,
didn't
that's funny.
sing,
I didn't know that. Yeah.
and it was all because he was too young to come to some of the clubs that he was friends with them. So as long as he was part of the band, and then he became just the guy that he was part of the band, he just danced around.
That's pretty funny. Oh, Todd said or who's it? Oh, Viper Scout said I would drive 6 people home in my stick shift on Excel. Yeah, I remember him cramming like so many people in this tiny little car, like where it's like the weight of this thing, like it would just be scraping the ground pretty much. This poor little car. Oh my God.
But no, I mean for me, like Pennywise, like they're a pretty popular band, but in the punk scene,
Mm-hmm.
they're able to live and play the music that they want, do the concerts and the festivals,
Mm-hmm.
put out an album every now. Good for you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why should you have to work at, Target just to pay your bills when
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
professional musician?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You should. So you call music art, right? There's a lot of art, different kinds of
Yeah.
art, right? You should be able to make money off your art. You shouldn't have to be a starving artist all the time. It's kind of sad that people think, well, if you're an artist, you shouldn't make money. Like, why not? Like, why does an accountant get to make money, but an artist doesn't? I don't understand. That's kind of lame, you know?
I I'm wi- I went out with a girl a few times a few years ago, and this girl, like, very nice girl, but just a total ditz. And she's like, there are professional skateboarders, and I'm like, there's professional everything.
Yeah.
And she's like, I would have had no idea that there were professional skateboarders. I'm like, what do you think? There's only professional basketball, football, hockey, and
Yeah.
baseball Like, there's
Yeah. Why is
professional
that different?
bikers,
Yeah.
professional musicians. I mean,
Professional golfers.
yeah,
Why not? Yeah.
and I'm with you.
It's
Like,
funny how people have like a line, like, skateboarding not a real thing, but golfing is. But look,
Yeah.
why did you draw that line? Look, why?
And don't
Yeah,
try and tell
yeah.
me that golfing is harder than skateboarding or
No.
more
Oh,
athletic.
please.
You know,
It
like
I always said, if you had to run from hole to hole and then people could tackle you as you're about to take a on the green or something, then that would be pretty awesome. Full contact golf, I'm all for that.
yeah, no professional YouTubers though. Unfortunately, there are.
Pro
Yeah, pro
bowlers is a good
bowlers.
one.
That's another one.
Wait, well, that guy, remember a few years ago? He's like, "Who?" Remember he got the
Yes.
strike and he won. He's like, "Who's the man? I am." And he freaks out. Oh my
God,
god,
what the
that
hell
was
is his
my favorite.
name? I know exactly who you're talking
Who the
about.
hell you think you are? I am. I think he says or something like that. That's so
Yeah.
funny.
Jim Rome always plays it. Jim Rome
Oh, does
always
he?
yeah, he always plays. I
The
can't think
last
of
time I watched Jim Rome was all the way back in time when he called Jim Everett Chris Everett, and the dude I watched that live or whatever, if it was live or
Really?
the first time it aired. I remember watching that and he went over the desk at him, and I remember being like, "Holy crap." I think that was the last time I watched Jim Rome. It's funny.
Wow.
That's what I remember.
I stopped. I haven't listened to him recently because he moved from what would be noon our time
Mhm.
to 3 p.m. and I don't. It's finding him on a specific radio to watch, like to listen
Mhm.
to, because he's not on the radio anymore in my area, and I have other things by that time. Like noon was perfect because I'm going to lunch, boom, I turn it
Oh,
on,
yeah.
and
Right. Yeah.
and then I'm just listening to it on the app or whatever. But I
Yeah.
think,
I
and
usually listen to Oh, go ahead, sorry.
oh, no, I try and, like, what he does and Dan Patrick too, like, the
Mhm.
way they interview people, that's where I molded a lot of what I do
Oh,
with this.
interesting.
Because they always
Oh,
say,
that's
like,
cool.
the best interviews are a conversation, and
Yeah, yeah, that's a
it's
good point.
very true.
I,
Um,
the reason I don't think I listen anymore is because I really only care about hockey now, so and they don't those shows don't talk about hockey, so
Jim Rome
or
does.
does he?
Yeah,
I just tune into, like, whatever, some
yeah.
weird, like, Elliot Friedman or those hockey podcasts is pretty much what I listen to, if I listen to anything sports at all, you know? So
Sports are fun. I don't even watch that much sports, like, that many sports anymore. I watch football, but I've really come to like personalities.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people here, um, that listen to me that are always in my chat that they're not into GI Joe or they're not into 112th, and they're literally here for some odd reason to listen to me. It kind of blows my mind that anyone would listen to me.
But
Uh,
you're doing something right. You're doing something right, you're bridging
well,
gaps
I
between
appreciate it.
communities. That's great.
Sometimes pissing people off, but oh well.
Well, what's great
Um,
about this format here is, like you said, it's a conversation we're talking about. We work in toys and GI Joe, right? But we talk about a bunch of other things too, and
yeah,
that's what's because everyone can, everyone here has listened to music before. Everyone here
yes.
knows what skateboarding is. Probably, like you said, a lot of these people did skateboard. You know what I mean? So, like, there is other connections to just toys.
Again, the reason for this show Thursday with the friend was I wanted to help and support people that are supporting me. But
Hmm.
anytime that I was in a chat, let's say Geek Dead Life, big, lots of people, toy anxiety, toy habits. Every time I would see someone, I see Todd C, Frank, right, Viper Scott. I'm always like, what's their story? There were
Hmm.
people that I thought were big YouTubers. Thanos Copter was one of them. Come to find out, he barely even has a channel. Like, but they were always highlighting him.
Yeah, interesting.
And
Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of what I wanted to do. But the other thing is, I didn't want to just talk toys because we can only talk toys so much. It
Well, yeah,
gets
for sure.
eventually it gets you're bored with it. And again, it's
Hmm.
like, all right, well, I've talked toys, and 3POA has talked toys, and Jerking Gaines have talked toys, and then Toy Habits is talk. It's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
like how many times can you hear the same news? People are
Right.
tuning in one for your personality, right? That's
Yeah, very true. Yeah. Very
because there's
true.
people that have been doing it longer than me that get like 12 people watching, and there's consistent, and
Hmm.
that's great. I don't want to be talking to 12 people if I'm doing this for a year or two. You want to be
Sure.
growing, you want to be bringing people in. And I know I've lost a lot of people, and maybe the channel just drops off. Maybe some people, I say something that they don't like, but there's always new people coming in. But with this, I was like, let's talk about their life because no one else
Hmm.
does that. you know, and
Yeah, I like
I've
it. Yeah,
watched it slowly grow to where I always go back to this one. There was one guy early on, he pops in and he starts asking questions about a new classified figure and it was great because I only had the one moderator at the time, Matthew.
mhm.
And before I even had to address it, Matthew says, "Hey, that's not what this show is about. It's about the person there. He'll be back on Monday to talk about it." And
Yeah,
the guy goes, "Oh, that's cool. I'm out." Like, not mean, not rude, just like he
yeah,
wanted. And I was like,
that's fine.
"Yeah,
Yeah,
like that was cool." But as I've watched this grow and watched the people that stick around throughout the whole 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever we go,
mhm.
they're getting to know people, and it's great. Um, I,
Yeah,
I think it's just great that people want to hear someone else on. I tell too much about my life. Everyone knows everything about me, right? Um,
oh,
you
Bill's
know,
back, we can start talking again. No, I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
Viper Scout says, I remember you had a conversation with Chad. He wanted to talk just toys, and you kept wanting to talk other stuff. I still think that was the genius of Thursday with it. Okay, so I had Chad on, or no, I was on Chad's, and somehow we got talking on punk rock. He's in a punk rock band. He grew up in the New York area. He knows a lot of these bands, and
Mhm.
he did not want like. And you're absolutely right, Viper Scott. That was part of like what I wanted to do to get away from just again. It gets like, oh, okay, so you collect GI Joe, and okay, well,
Yeah,
what's your
yeah, it
favorite
does.
GI Joe? Like, and that's great. I don't want to insult anyone who that's what their show is because we need that. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's like some of these guys that I could have on, you hear them, and if you're asking
Mhm.
the same questions, but when you talk about their family, how they grew up, what they
Yeah,
were into, sometimes you get into some. Again, I told you earlier, we've gotten into two different people that talked about,
right.
suicide.
Yeah,
People
that's
talked
heavy
about
stuff.
losing children, being in prison. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't
and
have any I don't have any of that heavy stuff, but it is a
and I
lot of
don't
people
need
can
that.
relate a lot of people can relate to that though, and hearing about it is like connects to certain people if
Yeah,
you've
I
been
I
through something
let
like
me
that.
I don't need to talk about suicide more than
Yeah, right.
if it
Well, you don't
goes
want it to be
there.
every episode. Yeah.
It was 2 in a row.
Oh, wow.
That
Okay.
so what was funny is that it was Astrodamus, and then I used to do every other week, and then the
Mhm.
next week was Ed, who I don't remember if Ed was my moderator at the time or not. And he had a very similar story. He even told me afterwards, he goes, I almost didn't want to talk about it because my story is so similar
Oh, wow.
that people thought he goes, I was worried people might think that I was just kind of copying what Oz
Mm.
did.
Mhm.
And if I remember correctly, the next one that I filmed was with Lenny from G.I. Joe.
Oh,
All
okay.
right.
Yeah.
But that one didn't go out for like 2 months. But
Okay.
I had to record it, had to send it over to them. And Lenny liked the format of it because he didn't have to be grilled about what's coming, right? And
Right.
it was also pre-recorded. But I remember telling Matthew, I go, I swear if Lenny talks about
Oh my god.
committing
That's
suicide,
funny.
I'm done. I can't do three. Like now, and this was early on too. This was earlier on. Like now I'm more versed to if something gets thrown at me that's pretty tragic to just kind of
Mhm.
listen to it. And the person wants to talk about it.
Yeah,
But
let him go.
I just
Yeah.
remember being like, if he taught, and I remember telling Matthew, I'm like, he didn't like, it's good.
That's so funny.
Like, it's
Oh my
I
god.
feel better now.
Can you imagine 3 in a row? You'd be
Oh
like,
my God.
"Alright, what is going
That would
on?"
be like, come on, I'm not a counselor guy.
Oh my god. That's so funny. You might have a license after doing 3 of those in a row.
Oh, I know.
Um,
That's what I,
you know what's funny about Lenny is I found out later, like, he interned at Fisher Price in East Aurora,
yes.
and actually, it might have been your show I watched where I found that out, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what
He
year
talks
would
about it
that have
mine.
been?" And then I figured out, I'm like, "Oh, I was living in East Aurora at the time he was interning, and I was tending bar at Sorrentino's, which is, was a restaurant there, And a lot of Fisher Price people would come into Sorrentino's while I was tending bar, and I'm like, it's very possible he came into my bar and ate or had drinks with those people while I was bartending there, and I would just not remember it. But that's so funny.
Yeah.
So random stuff.
And like Lenny's the perfect example of this. We got out that he dug graves. He was in a metal band with his brother. Like we've gotten some crazy stories out of this show. Yes, this is when I pat myself on the back and I have to have a chiropractor come in and push it.
No one else in like that list, kind of like, I don't know what you want to call it, toy YouTube, whatever it is, whatever it is. Yeah. Has a format like this. This is your own thing, which makes it really interesting and unique. Yeah.
And I'm actually surprised no one else has. I really
Plus,
am.
it's like good vibes too. This is good vibes, right? There's people that do things that are not necessarily good vibes, and I can't dig that. That's not my thing. You know?
I've had to but a lot of people I've told like before, where like maybe there was some controversy. I'm like, I'm not going, like I said, I'm not going to ambush any questions. Like there's no ambush questions, you know, because there's a lot of people that are close with, let's say, the 3POA, and they know I am not a fan of the 3PO. I'm like, I'm not going to ambush you. I don't care who you're friends with, because I'm never going to be someone that says, hey, I don't like those people, you can't like them. There are people in this community, and not just the Joe community, but the Motu community I've heard, that are like that.
Oh, really?
And they're like, if you're friends with those people, I'm not going to be friends with you. And it's like,
I don't play that stuff.
Like, I'm sorry. Like,
I just know who I know, and if we get along, we get along, and whatever.
Yeah.
There's too much of that in high school. I remember, and stuff where if you were friends with this guy, then this whole group of people wouldn't like you, but you were fine with them otherwise. And you're like, why? Like, why does it have to be this way? It doesn't matter. None of this matters.
I remember in high school, I was that way because a lot of the friends that I grew up with, they end up becoming jocks.
Mm-hmm.
So I hung out with some of the jocks, but I was still a punk. So I hung out with a lot of the alternative girls. And I remember there's a couple of girls that were like, all they do is make fun of us. And I was like, they said the same thing about you, but they started.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, I don't care who started it. All I'm saying is that it is this vicious circle that's never going to end. And frankly, I don't care. I'm friends with them. They're not trying to get me to drink. They know that I don't. And I can come. And again, like, you guys are the ones I'm hanging out with mostly, but it doesn't mean like I can only have one group of friends.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I think it makes you more of a well-rounded person when you have different types of friends that are different types of people, right?
Yeah.
So you're not just in like, I'm just the jock guy or I'm just the punk guy. Like, you kind of bridge the gap between different communities, and sometimes you can kind of stitch them together and people hang out. That happened in my 20s when we were all living together in that group like house.
Yeah.
I had friends that were not friends with those guys that would then come over, totally different communities. You know, some people were into hip hop, some were into like, you know, we called it techno then, and trance and whatever, going to raves. And you had other people that were into punk music. We'd have them all at the house at the same time, and everybody would have a great time. You know, that was the fun. That was so much fun.
Do you know techno was invented in Detroit?
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I see it, and I'm like, I wish we didn't invent it. I don't like techno, so I'll say like you'll see like home of the, you know, where techno was invented, and I'm like, it's not something to be proud of.
I've had many different eras where I was like all heavy metal or maybe some punk, and then it was like hip hop, then it was like techno and trance and all that stuff, going to raves, then it was like and then it was just like pretty much like film scores and all like that kind of music. Like I've kind of jumped.
So that's crazy. Like you stuff. like where you go. But again, like I know you talk to a lot of people, especially musicians, and when you hear what musicians like they're listening to not just the sound, but they're listening to how things are played.
Right.
I hear a lot of people that are like, they'll rip on punk and they'll be like, oh, those musicians suck. And I'm like, not all of them suck. They just, the brand of music when it comes to punk isn't hard to play. But a lot of them, they play it because they love it. It's not because they can't play it. And I have buddies that are like, they'll break stuff down, and they're like, "Oh no, you can hear the difference in the drums," and I'm like, "It sounds the same to me." But I
Do you
do
ever
watch
listen to the
skateboarding
do you
and
ever
see
listen to the
something
band
new.
Snapcase? You know Snapcase?
I know who Snapcase is. I never really listened to him though.
So I worked with two of those guys at an Apple store when I was there. You know,
Really?
Frank and Dustin. Yeah, Dustin was the bassist. Frank was Frank Vicario. I don't know what he was, but they were worked in the and they broke up because the lead singer got married and the wife didn't want him doing the thing.
Revelations band, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but then they got back together. They're doing stuff now still.
They all do.
Traveling around.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. All these
Because
bands.
the lead singer got divorced, right? So then he's a free man again. So then they could go and reform the band, you know. So, but they're cool dudes. They're awesome to talk to. Yeah,
A lot of those, a lot of those guys are. I've met, more than a few in my area. Guys that have played in big punk bands. Again, I'm not going to say huge bands. A lot of people
Mhm.
would go like, "Who?" Like, well, and when you hear the stories about some of these people, I love stories. I'm not an autograph seeker. I love stories. Like when people, my brother-in-law, he played professional baseball, retired before, like the year
Nice.
before I met my ex, and I didn't know who he was, but because I'm not a big baseball fan. But when I hear him tell stories, it's awesome because
Mhm.
like to hear him tell a story that I've heard on Jim Rome,
Oh
but then
yeah,
to
yeah,
hear he's
that'd be
like,
cool.
"Yeah, I was there. This is how it really went."
Yeah, that
You're
inside,
just
well,
like,
literally inside baseball. Stories
exactly.
are great.
I
Yeah.
remember being at a family, we were at a family get together, and he was reading through. I wanted to it was SI, and they were ranking all the baseball stadiums, and
Mhm.
he's going through, and he's like, dude, this one was awesome. He's like, the team sucked, and it was always great because we always won, and he's kind of like refuting some of them. And I
Mhm.
remember it was still early on, and I'm thinking, how the fuck do you know? And I was like, because you're so used to him just being a person,
Right, right,
and then you're
right.
like, oh wait a minute, that's right, you've played in all of these
Yeah. He
all these
lived this.
stadiums. Like you
Yeah.
don't think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the story. The stories are just they're just awesome, and I don't care where it's from. We sat down with Sergeant Slaughter at Joe Fest.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's
Thank
cool.
you to Ed, the guy he roomed with. He kind of grabbed him as he was walking by. He said, "Let me buy you a drink." He sat
Oh,
there
that's
for like
awesome.
2 hours, just
Oh,
telling stories about
that's cool.
wrestling and GI Joe, and um,
That would be awesome. I would love, oh my god. Yeah, those times,
that's
right, like kind of intimate setting, you're having a couple drinks, I'm telling you the war stories basically of things. Oh,
there were
so cool.
20 of us, I would say. I
Mhm.
know there's got to be somebody still in here that was there. There was like maybe 20 of us, and he's telling stories about uh, when the whole Bret Hart Shawn Michaels thing
Oh
happened. I don't know if
shit.
yeah, because he
Oh
was
yeah.
like right
Don't get
in
me
the
into wrestling, man. We're never gonna
yeah,
get off
he
here.
was right in the middle, and he's telling his perspective, and he's like, all those people that said they knew, they're full of shit because none like
Oh man, that's
now this is
awesome.
his perspective, and I think some of it may be a little skewed. I'm not sure, but he said, and his handler, his agent, kept trying to get him to leave, and he'd smack him in the
That's
stomach
funny.
and like leave me alone. And I I'm one of those people. Everyone is like, dude, it's just an act. I'm like, no, he turned his back on Hulk Hogan and the USA. All right, he turned his back on us, right? And everyone said, oh, I bet you won't say. I told him, I'm like, you know what? I kind of feel bad that I didn't like you and he's like, oh, why is that? And he's kind of laughed. And I'm like, you
Mhm.
turned your back on Hulk Hogan and the USA,
Yeah,
and
well,
you made me think that wasn't the Iron Sheik. We all knew it was Iron
I
Sheik.
I do remember that era being like, what is happening? What is going on here? I remember feeling really conflicted about it, but he was getting like death threats and stuff. His
Yeah.
family was, yeah, it was a scary time. Yeah. I've heard him talk about it on like different shows,
Eh,
but you know,
Do you think there was 40 people there? I don't know. There was 40. There was at least 20. I
that's
mean,
crazy.
Dave was there, but he was just like again because he does this breakfast with Sarge, and I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah.
I'm not paying $120 to go have
Mhm.
breakfast. Those
Yeah.
pancakes better be like layered in gold. But when he stopped, and he's there for a convention, and it's after hours, and he just stopped, and everything that I had ever heard was he is like the best ambassador they ever could have picked because
Mhm.
he loves what they did, like that they made
Mhm.
him this character, um, and he's just the nicest guy, and he
Yeah.
truly was. Like I could not find a bad thing to say about him, even though he turned his back on Hulk Hogan in the USA.
Well, and then when I got back into wrestling was 96, 97, whenever that was, when I remember flipping through the channels on my little TV, and then seeing Hulk Hogan in black and white, and then being like, and going past it and be like, wait, what was that? And going back, and then him
Really?
in the ring with Nash and Scott Hall, and I'm like, what is this? And it might have been the Monday Nitro, like within a week or two of the Bash at the Beach, when
Okay.
he became, and I was like, is he a bad guy now? I'm like, what is happening? It just sucked me right in, and I was like
It
going to
did it for
WCW events. I was going to pay-per-views. Oh man, I was all
it
over
did
that.
that for a lot of people. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people became wrestling fans. Now I never got out of it
You know what
until
got me out of it was not Paul Bear, Brother Love. When that Brother Love thing was going down, I'm like, I cannot listen to this guy 1 second more, and I just got right out of it.
I love
Oh,
you.
dude, I will hang up this right now. I could not do that guy. I hated everything about it, and
I
then
loved
I was
his
out of it
character.
until the NWO thing happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I never got out. I was always, and I was never a WCW guy. But when Hall and Nash went over, that's
Mhm.
when you started because it was the WWF. Like it was
Oh,
genius.
yeah. I mean, they had
It-
everybody there. Rick Rude was there, Macho Man was
yeah,
there, you still had Flair and Sting, but then you had all the WWF guys there too,
yeah,
Mr. Perfect was there. Yeah, it was a good time to watch that,
and
and then you had
you
some new
saw it.
guys, like the new dudes that were popping up at that, like Rey Mysterio and all those. It was a fun time.
But then what you had, like you saw what happens when Vince is counted out, and he started just creating character. And that's why, like again, you can say whatever you want, the type of person Vince McMahon is, or
Well, he knew what he was doing. That's for
yeah,
with
what he
wrestling.
became at the end, of his
Mhm.
WWF career, owning it. But he is the reason why wrestling is what it is today.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
And
You
anyone
know
that
what I
tries to
remember with,
argue,
WCW is because they were live at the time, early on, WWFE, I don't remember when that switchover was, taping, So they
yeah,
were revealing the results on
yep.
WCW, and I remember being like, "Oh my god, this is amazing. What a bunch of assholes." I loved it so much back
When
then.
if you ever watch, they talk about the real turn happened when they gave away the ending that that Mick Foley won the
Mhm.
WWF title.
Yep.
And they said we had done it before because that's what we were doing. We didn't realize that everyone was going to switch over
Right,
because
that's what
people
happened,
wanted to
yeah.
see somebody that put their heart and soul, literally put his body on. I
Oh, I
remember
know.
watching that Hell in a Cell. I even know exactly where I was when he got tossed off it. Like that was just like, wow.
Yeah,
Like
it's crazy. Yeah, that dude is awesome. Yeah, I watched a documentary about him. I don't remember what it was
I just
called.
watched it like the other day because it
Yeah, and it's
popped up
like,
on YouTube, and I'm like,
what a dude. That guy's an interesting dude. Very
he's
layered, I would say.
he is the nicest guy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was at
exactly.
an event with Sergeant Reds when he was there. I went there and helped him, and I started. I'm like, because we're part of the crew there. I'm just sitting there, and I started talking to him, and here when you meet guys like this, let's say you're working like an
Mhm.
event, don't talk to them about the things that
Oh,
everyone
no.
else talks to them
I know.
about.
I know, right?
I
Yeah.
started talking to him about other things, um, and they just will open up. But he is, honest to God, just the nicest person that you could meet.
Yeah, that's great.
And
That's great when that happens. When you meet somebody you look kind of revere in some way and they end up actually being a nice person. That's such a
yeah, and
bonus.
he said
Yeah.
that he had just got blindsided because someone came up and asked if he could do a quick interview, and they had nothing to do with the store.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, and they kind of shot him down first, John and D, and Mick was like, no, he's like, I'm sorry. He goes, I recently agreed to do that, and like the second or third question, the guy ambushed me with politics, and he goes, I'm not talking
Oh,
about that.
it's not
And I'm not saying this guy was going to,
right.
but to ambush somebody, and again, those people know what they're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They know
Yeah,
they're
for
trying
sure.
to get a rise out of
Yep.
someone. They're
Yep.
trying to get an opinion out of them so they can. They're people are going to twist it because they just want the views. And
Yeah, exactly. That's what they're doing it for their own, and it doesn't matter if they're like sacrificing this person on the altar of I want more views for me, you know. And I that's slimy. Not a big fan of that.
Viper Scout says Mick Foley has a giant Santa Christmas collection.
Oh,
That
I
sounds
didn't
like
know
how
that.
that sounds like him.
That's funny.
Uh,
I wouldn't doubt it at all. That sounds right on brand.
yeah, but I started talking to him about like aging, and like I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not like you. I'm like, I skateboarding and lifting weights, like, man, my knees when I wake up. And you get him in this conversation, and then you get to
Mhm.
because then he'll be like, oh yeah, you know, doing this at like that. Then they start talking about it. And once
Mhm.
they open up, you kind of let them
Oh yeah.
lead the conversation and
Yeah.
hear what they have to say. But they yeah, I nicest guy, one of the nicest guy that I've met.
That's great. That's
And
really great.
yes, and it was awesome because like he shows up and this one guy came running out at him, and John, who's a former police officer and Marine, he literally stopped this guy, and this guy wasn't going to hurt him or anything,
Right.
but he had to stop him. Like, no, he had to get back in line, and
Oh,
he's
that's
kind of
funny.
a little weird guy to begin with.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
but he had like
He'll have that.
he had the mankind mask on, and they knew him before they know who the kid was.
Okay.
So he's a little, but yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have
Well,
fun.
it happens. There are, you get all kinds at those events.
Oh
All
yeah.
kinds. Yeah.
So before we wrap, I do want to ask you.
Mhm.
I want to ask about what you do on Instagram, and then I'm also
Okay.
about what you're going to be doing on YouTube.
All
So
right.
you
Yeah.
take some awesome pictures.
Thanks.
I wanted to ask quickly before I forget the little the fogger that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one you just got off off Instagram, off of Amazon or?
You can get it on Amazon. I think
Okay.
at the time when it first came out, it's from Ulanzi. They did a pre-order on their website for it. And
Okay.
if you got in on the pre-order, you got like, I don't know what the percentage off, 30% off. Like, you know what I mean? If you pre-ordered it. So I remember I pre-ordered it and it was, took a few months, shipped. And it's been great. I had a little issue with it, but it ended up being my fault. I kind of messed it up a little bit, but you can buy parts for it, which is nice. So if you like,
Okay.
there's a couple pieces that if you mess it up, which I did, I can buy a replacement part. I don't have to buy the whole thing over
How
again.
much did it run you? Do you mind me or how much is it?
Um,
Do you know? Because there's
I
some that
think
are
on
about
Amazon
100,
I've seen, yeah, I've seen on Amazon for different prices, and I don't know if it's just the seller or if it's been reused. I want to say it's around $100,
Okay.
but it might be a little more than that or a little less than that. I think I paid less than that when I ordered it originally, and the little cylinder, the little fog juice glass canister that sits in
Yeah.
there. I kind of messed that up. I ordered a replacement one that was like $30. So I have an extra, and I actually fixed the original, so now I kind of got two. But yeah, it's been great. I really don't have any issues that I didn't cause with it. It's been awesome. So they have other brands that make those same kind of handheld, foggers, but this one's been working great for me. So
Okay. So yeah, Toy Optics was saying that he's been debating it because I saw it. I'm like, because I watched the video and I'm like, that's staying. It's staying fogged for quite some time.
yeah, there's
Like,
different ways you could do it too. Yeah, so you could use the little stem and just kind of blow the smoke, Or you just put this little piece of foam over the end of the stem, and it'll do like the more like kind of smoke that kind of hugs and sticks to the
And
ground because it comes out
and what
differently.
is it that causes it to smoke?
It's like fog juice, they call it. I don't know. It's some kind of
Wh
I don't know
Where'd
what's
you
in it.
get it from? Amazon
Well,
or
it comes with a canister of it. You can order more from Ulanzi, but it's pretty much any kind of like fogger is going to use a similar
okay.
kind of liquid. Yeah, yeah.
'Cause that's what I was also wondering, like so anyway, I wanted to remember that before, um, I just wanted to remember that before because I saw it and I was like and then I went on Amazon, I'm like, "They're about $100. Do I wanna
Hmm.
invest in this right now?"
Yeah.
Depends saying he just subbed to your YouTube.
Oh,
So,
thanks. Appreciate it.
um, first off, kinda tell about your Instagram and all the pictures that you've been doing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I started along. I don't know. Feels like forever ago. Just shooting O-ring stuff outside my apartment when we lived in Columbus, and I was doing a lot of that. Like when I was a kid, like I said, I would take my mom's Polaroid outside, and I would use up all our film, shooting my Joes in the yard. Horrible photos. I still have some. Um, and she'd be like, "Where's all my Polaroids?" Because they came in those like foil packs, and I would
Yes,
just use them all up. And
I
she'd
know
be like, "Use
exactly
all
what you're
my
talking
film
about.
again," and I'm like, "Sorry," because I wanted to recreate the catalogs as a kid. I'd see them in these little
Oh, okay.
settings, and I would be like, "I want to do that," but I didn't know what I was doing. And so then like I said, I got a minor in photography, and I did a little bit of stuff back in the day. And then when Instagram, I'm like, "Oh, I could do that on Instagram," and then I saw other people were doing it, so I'm like, "Oh, okay." But at the time, it was mostly like the Star Wars stuff.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Frank. Yeah, it was like mostly like stormtroopers everywhere back then, like 2015, 2014. So I started doing it then with my O-rings and stuff. And then there was periods of time, I'd say like when I first moved to Cleveland, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, when my mom passed away, my uncle passed away, my grandma there was like a lot going on. And I like kind of took a break for a while. Um, and but then I got back into it, and right when I was getting back into it, classified was around and stuff. So I started shooting a lot more classified stuff, and there was a little bit of an adjustment from going from a 3 3 3/4 scale to a 6-inch scale. Just the placement of the lens, what type of lens I'm using, the distance I am from the figures, and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, you know really I just kind of like I have a whole book of ideas of like things I want to shoot, and I'll create dioramas, or I'll purchase dioramas from people if I really like them. But I try to create my own dios and stuff and my own settings, and I'll do some behind the scenes on certain ones that I've set up. Um, Now I'm kind of I want to work more of my maybe design and illustration into the plastic battles thing. So I'm gonna go off in a little bit of a side tangent a little bit and see how it goes. Starting soon, so we'll see where it
Okay.
goes. I sprinkled it in before. There's some areas where you could scroll back and you'll see a little more design mixed in with the photography. I'm gonna try a little different kind of thing with that.
See, I
So,
think I had Emerald Knight on, uh, a while well, actually a year ago because it was actually, it was as a night of the 2024 draft. Because I
mm,
remember he was worried he was trying to figure out who the Raiders picked,
oh
and
my
I
god.
shot him a message. I'm like, "Hey," I'm like, "I think you were on, a year ago last night." He's like, "I was." And I said, "I love what he does when he does wonderful photography." And one of the cool things that he does is he has like the first picture, the next picture, he tells people like what lens he uses, what camera,
Hmm.
what shutter speed,
Yep.
which means very little to me.
Hmm.
But the more you get into it, and I would assume a photographer would be like, oh, okay, you're able to kind of like, okay, this is what you're doing, especially if you're a novice and you're learning more.
Right.
It gives you it's take I absolutely hate gatekeeping in any community.
For sure. Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
like it's like, okay, so just because you know it, you don't think other people should because you
Yeah.
worry about someone catching
Right.
up to you. Well, why don't you just worry about being better, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I've had people ask me, DM me on Instagram, ask me how I did stuff, and I'll like, I use this, I use that. This
Yeah.
is how I do it. I don't typically put my camera settings into Instagram. I thought
These
about
are
it. What
the
I
only one.
do is I'll put it in on my website. So I basically make a
Okay.
blog post for each image, and I put it on
Yeah.
my website. Higher resolution, better there than on Instagram. But then I'll put the camera settings and stuff on those posts, so it is there.
So actually, I lied. I did not put your YouTube. I put your plasticbattles.net.
All right, yeah, that's my website.
So
Yeah, I mean, there's a little YouTube link up in the header there for that too. But yeah, and on YouTube, I'm still kind of experimenting what I'm going to do. But I did start the Joe-tographer show. So episode 1 with Skydor Walker
it,
went live Tuesday, and then episode 2 will go live tomorrow night, probably around 7 or 8 Eastern time. I'll probably post that. Episode 3 is recorded. I'll probably post that next week.
so is your YouTube Plastic Battles?
Yeah, it's Plastic
Oh,
Battles.
hold
Yeah.
on. Then why didn't it populate? I'm trying to put it in right now. Is it something? Oh wait, I should probably spell plastic right first.
Yeah, you know,
it happens.
it happens. I do. I when I typed it out for this when I was joining the stream, I butchered the thing. I had to retype it 3 times.
There's no underscore or anything.
Nope. That's one of the reasons why I got to keep it, right? There's no weird characters. I got it everywhere. I got it on Twitter or X.
There it is. Okay.
All the platforms. So I try to keep it.
All right. Now his YouTube is in there. I just added. Sorry,
Right,
I wasn't ignoring you. I'm like,
well, I'm just kind of messing around on YouTube and having fun. The Joe-tographer will be there. I've already said, like, I'm not like, I won't ask. I'm not going to post anything like and subscribe. I'm just going to post my videos. If people like them, great. If they don't, that's fine too. You know,
no,
I'm just going to be real laid back about it. You know,
but again, I'll tell everyone before we wrap it up, like what was the video that you put out, and what are what you're putting out today?
Yeah. So maybe 2018 or something. I ordered. I got these from eBay, maybe from somebody in Belgium, and it was 3 dossiers that they released in Belgium, Netherlands in 1989. And each one of these is full of toy photography, right? Vintage toy photography, obviously, is from 89. So the first booklet has the most amount of photos in it. So I split it into 3 parts. And, as you go through it, you'll see like there's these awesome toy photos in settings of whatever was released that year. So the first part is like 6 of these roughly. Second part's 6, third part's like 6, and that'll wrap up the first dossier. Then I've still got to scan 2 and 3. And these are different formats. That's more of like a booklet. Some of these, it's interesting what they did. This one's like a fold out, all the photography on one side.
Oh, wow.
And the other one folds out into like a big poster instead of that gatefold. It's kind of like more of a poster, you know what I mean? It's all connected.
Okay.
So I'll scan these in. They don't have as many photos as the first booklet, so I might only need 1 or 2 parts for those, probably 2 parts at least. And then I'll do episodes on those. That's just like one format, like is reviewing vintage toy photography, especially stuff that we may not have seen in North America. I have an older video from a Benelux catalog from 1990 that I did when I was doing the podcast. That's still on my channel. And that was broken into 2 parts with Attica Gazette. He's another great toy photographer. But in the future, it won't just be vintage toy photography. I might have people on talk about current photography. We might just talk about the classified photography from a Wave or something that Shooting the Galaxy does. I might just show some of my process, do a video on my process. Could be everything from like how I set up shots to how I use my Photoshop files and stuff like that. So it's kind of open-ended for Joe-tographer. I'm going to kind of try to keep that to like very, obviously Joe photo focus. So it's a niche of a niche of a niche, toy collecting, toy photography, G.I. Joe toy photography. There is other toy photography like YouTube shows, but they focus like mainly on like Star Wars Mythic Legions, Marvel Legends, stuff like that. Once in a while they'll have some Joe shots in there, but a lot of those guys don't know even the names of the characters. And as I'm watching that, I'm like, oh, this is driving me nuts. I just want a Joe photo show. So I'm like, maybe I'll just got to make one. So that's what I'm doing.
And I think what is really cool about that is you don't have to be a G.I. Joe fan for what you're explaining to look at it, because it doesn't. You're breaking down a photography of
Right.
how it. So it doesn't matter. I tell Tony's Figs all the time. You need to focus and do some recordings on your customs, because Someone doesn't have to customize an action figure or a toy to learn how to paint. You can learn how to do that on anything because they're watching what you're doing. They're going to be learning how to break it down. Or someone
Mhm.
doesn't need to be a Joe fan to see how you're dremeling out the head. Everyone can dremel out the head. No one wants to do it. Not everyone wants to do it till they see how it's actually done.
Yeah, exactly, because 'cause they're afraid they're gonna mess it up, right? But if they can see
Exactly.
how it's done, then they're like, "Okay, I'm not so scared to do this anymore."
So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you like McFarlane, if you like
Mhm.
Marvel Legends,
Right,
Valaverse,
right.
you're seeing how somebody's doing it and you're going, "Oh, okay, I can do that now." It's
Yeah,
just
and
that
that's
little bit.
exactly like yeah, I'll watch other toy photography shows just for fun, right? And they might
Yeah,
not be shooting figures that I'm interested in, but I'm more interested in composition, lighting, whatever
exactly.
techniques they're using, just to kinda see what other people are up to. Um, what do you say? I did a tutorial about shooting photo. One of my least watched videos, yeah, but people say it helped them. Yeah, it is worth it. To me, I've done similar. There's a couple of old ones on my YouTube channel which didn't get any views, but if you get a couple comments that say, "Hey, this really helped me," I'm like, "All right, great. Like this is awesome." Um, yeah, action figure worked for Fisher Price. Interesting. My aunt worked for Fisher
Yeah, it's
Price in the 70s, and my cousin, her son is on one of the boxes because they used to do photography of kids playing with the toys on the Fisher Price boxes, and he's actually on one. I don't remember what toy it was, but he's on one of the boxes. Um,
I need to get I need to get a sound that every time that somebody subs to someone else's channel when I have them on that I can play because you're getting hit with a bunch of subs, which is awesome.
hey, thanks, guys. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's kind of I
Yeah,
mean
I
that's
hope I
kind of
hope I hope they like what I do there, but it'll be, they'll
you'll
be
know because you'll start losing subs if they don't.
right, which is okay. I don't honestly like. I don't even look at my numbers on Instagram. I couldn't even tell you who
Yeah,
follows me there. I
it'll be
just
cool. It'll
yeah.
be cool getting a message tomorrow saying, "Oh, Punk, that's awesome! I got 10 new subs," and then Sunday being like, "Fuck you, Punk! I lost 10 subs."
I know. We gotta do another show. Stat.
um, no, but again, I think what you're doing is awesome. I love that that you do Instagram live and you're just in your room just chatting about GI
Yeah,
Joe and stuff like that.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I
It
don't
those
really
turn
get to
into
watch it
like
because of
yeah,
when it
yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah, well, those I've been doing for you. I did those since before you could even save the lives to Instagram. You just
Yeah,
lose them after. So I was doing
that's
those for a
crazy to
long
think.
time, and it's like I get my little merry band of people. It's like the same guys. I love it. It's really kind of we just jam about stuff. I'll say here I got this stuff in, but it always goes off on tangents. And I'll have a rant about something, a rant about something, and they'll humor me as I'm ranting. But, yeah, it's just kind of fun. I might actually move that to YouTube eventually, um, just to see how it goes. I've done a couple of those when I had guests on. Like, I had my friend Sean Wordburglar on a couple times, and those are
Okay.
still on YouTube. That's like 2020 times. So I did a couple of those on YouTube in the past, but, yeah, usually when I
YouTube
had someone on.
is definitely the place to do
I
stuff
was
like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. I always felt, like, comfortable on Instagram because even though it's out there in the internet, anyone can join it, it felt more intimate and, like, cozy.
Yeah, I
I
can
feel
see
like
that.
when you go to YouTube, you're in a bigger pool, and you know how it goes on YouTube sometimes. All of a sudden, these, like, negative forces start coming in, and I'm like, "Man, I don't want a part of that," but we'll see how it goes.
I've actually never done an Instagram live. I think that would be more like for me, that would be even more intimidating for the
Oh, really?
fact that I'm not used to not everyone that's on my Instagram realizes that I have a YouTube channel, which is
Mm,
very shocking. Like it's very
mhm.
shocking, or because they'll be like, "Oh, you have a YouTube channel," and you're like, "Really?" Like,
Yeah, well, yeah, it's interesting how people are like, one platform, and they kinda know you from that, and they just kinda don't you maybe just don't go anywhere else and just
yeah.
see your stuff on the one place. I've
No,
never
yeah,
happened. Yeah.
and again, I'm so comfortable with everyone that's here, but I've also never used Instagram Live, so,
Mhm.
um, and again, I had thought about putting Instagram on and while I'm doing like the Monday night show, so it could be there too. But
Oh, the simulcast it, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like to me, it just seemed like you want to push everyone over here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems like the best way, but who knows? I mean,
Yeah, it seems like the natural evolution of things, right? Kenzo says he used to do just Instagram. Now he's on YouTube primarily, which makes sense, you know. So I might end up doing that because, like I said, I do want to do a little something different with Plastic Battles as far as like the photography end of it, and Instagram is kind of my hub for that.
yeah,
So if I'm breaking, like, I might break the fourth wall less with Plastic Battles, where I save that for YouTube or for Jotographer shows where I do that only, but Plastic Battles becomes more of like some kind of narrative I'm working on. So I'm still trying to like juggle that, but I want to keep it interesting and fun for me. So I want to try a little something different.
that's
You know,
once it starts getting boring for you, people will notice. If you're
yeah.
just doing it for the clicks and the likes, or if you're making money off it, like people notice if you don't have a love for it. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can, and you'll see it in the comments, you'll see it in the people that watch you, like that they're not enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
Well,
Like I
normally,
always love it. It just for me, it's like I always want to tweak, twist, and try something different, you know, just
and,
to keep it, like a little bit fresh, I guess, you know. So
and that's the best way to look at it. I mean, I don't think you should again, for me, I don't think you should be reinventing your
hmm
show every time.
right.
But I tell people, I go, don't fall in love with any any topic or anything that you might do on your lives because other people might not like it. Now, if
hmm
you're just in love with it, then do it.
Right. Right.
But also don't be scared to try something new.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You always be exploring new things, you know, keeps life interesting. So
Yeah.
that's what I try to do.
So, but anyway, it's been over 3 hours. I want to say thank
Yeah.
you very much. Everyone, please go down in the links. Now you can actually subscribe to his YouTube channel.
Well,
But
thank
check
you.
out
Appreciate it.
his webpage also. His webpage. I sound like an old man. Like check out his webpage.
Yeah,
You know,
for the
everybody.
toy photography stuff, like in here, I'm doing it on YouTube, but I put the high res scans on my site. So if you want to
Really
see the
nice.
images in
That's
like high res, they're there. You know.
yeah, it's really, really nice. Look at this. You got look at all these new subscribers that you got.
Oh wow, thanks. I
Okay,
haven't even
jumping
looked.
in here. But no, I want to say thank you very much. So
Thanks,
go
Cody.
down, subscribe to his Instagram, subscribe to his YouTube, make him a bigger YouTuber than me. Not that that's that hard. Um,
No,
again,
you're gonna have that title. You're gonna have that title belt, and that's good. That's good. You know.
hey, I'm not one that lies. I actively try and grow my YouTube. Like when everyone's like, I don't even. I'm like, fuck you. I actively try and grow and become bigger and do better. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, if you're putting time into it, it totally makes sense, right? You're putting time
Yeah.
and energy into this. You'd want it to grow. Like, what if it didn't? Is it worth the time? You know, so you gotta have that balance, you know. So, but I
No.
appreciate you having me on. This is great. I had a great convo. I love talking about anything, you know, like this. So it's fun talking about random things that I forgot about. When you're asking me questions, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. But yeah, that weird
And
thing
that's
did
what
happen.
I've had a few people say that, and again, it's just cool because we don't know, and then when
hmm
you get to think about stuff that you forgot about, and you're like, wow, this
hmm
is actually a pretty good memory that I had.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Yeah, it's
because
great.
you don't always think about it. That's why,
Right.
in the in all those classic reviews, I'm like, tell me a story. Like
Mhm.
it's 10 minutes out of your life, and back in the day, Bill was someone you knew, not something you had to pay.
Right, exactly.
Everyone
Oh
hates
my
paying
god.
bills, right?
Oh, yeah. My biggest concern in the summer as a kid is like, well, I only got so many hours of daylight. Do I play G.I. Joe or Transformers? Do I mix them? Do I go play War in the Woods? Do I play baseball? Oh my god, there's so many things I could do. That was my biggest stress, you
That's
know?
what a great stress that was too.
Yeah, exactly. So
Like,
fun.
I was just stressed. But anyway, Paul, thank you very much. I had a great time. So please,
Same.
everyone, if you haven't yet, check him out on Instagram and YouTube. Check out his latest show. Um, I think he's gonna be cutting his hair, so it won't be as tall next time.
I know. I gotta get a haircut. I just keep going until it just kind of falls over because it can't stand up over its own weight.
That's pretty punk rock right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much. We will see everyone. Well, if you're a channel member, you'll see me tomorrow, Punk's Pit. And then, I guess I don't like promoting my other stuff when I have you on, but
Go for it.
This Sunday, 8 p.m., I am going to be talking with Ed from Joe Fest. So if you have any questions, go to Instagram, drop a question. And if it's not a stupid question, I'll ask him. Until then, you guys all know where to find me. I'm not hard. So, all right, Paul, thanks
everybody.
Much. Take care.